go ahead and get started here so we can make sure that we get all our business taken care of in time. But I did want to start off with something that I meant to say when I had the microphone before after John's comments, especially regarding the elections that we had recently with our candidates who ran, and I feel did very well. As far as growing the Green Party and people not knowing who we are, each of us got tens or hundreds multiples of votes versus registered Greens in our county. I got thousands of votes in a district that had 50 registered Greens. If you vote for a particular party outside the three-party system, then suddenly you're going to kind of know who that party is. I don't think a whole lot of people. Well, I just think that that is an important part of outreach that should be appreciated, and I do want to push for us to be looking for candidates for 2020 especially, but also 2020 local elections, municipal elections, etc. So I just wanted to make that one little point that slipped my mind right talking before. All right, so we are going to start with nominations. We do have a slate of nominees here on the screen. Sorry? And we have a handout that is in paper. Can somebody work with me? And do we have any slots where we have more nominees than offices?
One thing with accreditation, we discussed this yesterday, and also Jennifer Sullivan is not on that committee anymore. She quit.
Understood.
We have 2 open slots.
Understood. No, we have, understood. Absolutely. I pretty much want to accept members to committees on a volunteer basis and not worry about elections unless we have too many people. Because what's going to happen is we have way fewer people looking to join national committees than these slots that are available. That makes sense? And yes, your seat is until October of next year. Exactly. All right, so we do have some seats that are open that we are seeking nominees. Well, first of all, does anyone want to nominate themselves or anyone else for any office, whether there's a nominee there or not? Really good.
Yeah, I'm going to nominate myself for assistant treasurer.
All right. So, all right, we have 2 nominees for assistant treasurer.
Can you repeat that?
Raheel would like to nominate himself to stand again for assistant treasurer. All right, so we currently have 2 nominees for assistant treasurer. Yes.
Can you first give me fill in the blanks on the nominees that are not on the page? Because I think if some have been.
Well, you just said there were 2.
And we only
How do you
see
pronounce your name? Rahilio. Yeah.
Absolutely.
She's an H, right? Yeah.
I was not sure that you had intended to stand again, Rogelio, and so we do have a secondary nominee, and we will go from there. I'm going to go down the list right now. I'm going to go down the list to make sure we have all the nominees listed. So currently, the current nominee we have 1 current nominee for female co-chair, and that's Robin Harris, standing for re-election. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate themselves or someone else for that office? All right, moving forward, we have myself currently standing as male co-chair. Standing for election again. Do we have anyone else? Anyone who would like to nominate themselves or another Green to stand as male co-chair? All right, moving down the list for secretary. We have 1 nominee, and that is Steve Newman, that we would love to welcome onto the board. Do we have any nominees for secretary outside of Steve Newman? For our recording secretary, I would like to nominate Sunny. We checked her credentials while you were on lunch, and she is a registered Green in good standing. Sunny, Olivia. And she's accepted the nomination. Do you have any other nominees?
Just needs to still fill out a form.
Yes, you fill out that membership form while you're here today. Actually, can you do that right now before we take this vote?
What's Sonny's last name?
Freeman.
Sonny Freeman.
Freeman.
I've got it.
So before we take that vote, I'm going to need that piece of paper turned in.
She's nominated for what?
Recording secretary.
I'm updating the chart.
Yes, we see it in real time.
Chris Cordova.
Chris has not indicated that he wants to stand for re-election.
Okay, well, he's on here, so we need to scratch him.
No, he's listed as current. He is current up until this point.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, we're falling asleep here. All right. Treasurer, Aaron Frost, our current treasurer, is standing for re-election. Do we have any nominees for treasurer? All right. Did I? Ah, yes, we did. Communications secretary. I have nominated Mark Patterson, a member of the Palm Beach County Green Party, as communications secretary. Those of you who are active in our social media probably have come across Mark before. I nominated him for the position because it's right up his alley. He's very, very active in social media and in activism, and he's a millennial, so we're trying to bring a little youth action into the party. So I've nominated Mark Patterson. Is there anyone else who would like to stand for the position of Communications Secretary of the GPFL? All right. So I intend to present the board as a slate. You voted up or down. We're going to go down this list. Sorry, go ahead.
And sorry, I've been meeting before all this, but we should also read the roles and duties of each of these items.
I will. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
Could we talk about when we have that regard?
You got it. All right. Brevard did make a request to get off this meeting, so I'm going to put this on pause for 1 second. Brevard County has requested to be approved to host next year's AMM. Brevard has volunteered. They were hoping to do so this year, but they weren't sure that they would have the manpower in town. But now they feel secure in their ability to host the AMM. Do we have any objections to us agreeing now that next year's AMM will be in Brevard, barring any unforeseen circumstances?
I have a question.
Yes.
I think that there's a two-part question on that. So, yes, I mean, we can go with that, but there also, typically, we also have thresholds that we do ask for, like we want to have general costs, general kind of things, and I think you're fine with presenting those later on by certain times so we can make those decisions as we go. So it's like, it's a tentative vote, I would say. It's not like, okay, now whatever goes, we're doing Brevard. It's like, now you have to.
Understood. So,
Brevard has offered to host the 2020.
Yes, and how about this? I would like to say that we accept their offer tentatively, that is to say, barring unforeseen circumstances like costs that get out of hand or Brevard disappears or something like that.
You know what else? Like this.
I'm going to take a question on your mind.
Yeah, and in general, I mean, just like at national, when there's someone's offering to host, suggesting, having some suggestions further about what those costs and stuff are. But go ahead, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. You want to represent Brevard and talk about this?
What a journey planning this meeting here this weekend. I was intimately involved in it, and I think that prepares me and our local well to host next year our very important AMM of 2020, where we presumably will be hosting perhaps even more presidential candidates. And I not only wanted to make this vote about approving us to host, but also go ahead and set a date, because though it's dependent on a lot of things, I think if we have a date and we start getting that out there, it'll allow us to attract the most candidates to our event, knowing that it's already there on the calendar and they can plan on that the whole year in advance. And also, I'm kind of pushing to have this vote now because I'd like to avoid a lot of last minute things that we had to decide and deal with in planning this meeting. So if we have a whole year in advance, I think that will lead to a really special event.
What is the city in your county?
Yeah. that would be my-
Well, I live in Melbourne. Brevard, I'm not sure, but I kind of think Brevard is the longest county in Florida. It takes about an hour and a half to get from one end to the other. Melbourne is in
Stretch
South
down along the
Brevard.
coast like that.
Yeah, just along the coast.
Melbourne?
Melbourne's in South Brevard. Titusville is in North Brevard.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And Cocoa area is kind of in the middle.
What area would you propose to have the meeting in?
Well, part of
For those
also,
of us who drive 7-8 hours to get here.
I'd like to highlight some of the things that our county offers. You know, I'd love to get one of our days, something going on at the Cape. You know, this is, I don't know that it'll happen. Most of us that are involved with the party right now are in the Melbourne or South Brevard area.
Okay.
We're central at most.
So
We're trying to attract more.
probably Melbourne, that would be where.
Probably.
In all likelihood, if that's where most of your concentrated, that's where you want to host your meeting, because you're familiar with that space.
Exactly, yeah.
Community rooms, access to spaces.
And furthermore, it's nice to have the location close to home with someone who lives there, so they can forget stuff, and then drive half an hour to go to someone's house to grab it.
Right, and that's the other thing about us planning the date in advance. I can set aside my house for whatever date we decide on to host maybe up to 10 people or a dozen people.
Come camp out with you, huh?
You can camp out in the yard. Yeah. That's actually, I was kind of pushing for April. I've been told April's not really.
It rains a lot in April, doesn't it?
Well,
It doesn't
it's still a
rain.
little, it's still kind of cool enough to camp. If we
Oh,
did it late April, I think camping would be a lot more feasible for people.
late April, we're
I'm
in
not
late May.
kidding, I'm old.
But that's all right. I mean, I won't be able to host everyone at my place, but there are reasonable accommodations
I would just say
nearby. I'm in a really accessible area.
So late April, preferably early May,
Well,
worst case
Give them a
scenario.
date, about 30 days. We give them a date.
And you got a little early to make sure you can.
well, I'd like to facilitate the discussion about the date right now.
Okay. Oh, yeah, never mind that.
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say the same thing, let's do a vote to see if we accept, that we're gonna tentatively post in Brevard, and let something, happen, and then we can see, we can get suggestions for dates, and talk about that briefly. If we can nail something down today, then we can, if not, then, but I agree very much with Steve in that, I remember my first year on the council, the scramble that we had at the end of going on. Remember this year on the council, I tried to put it on the agenda as early as December. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know we got plenty of time. It's like, well, I don't think we do, but if everyone else agrees that we do, then that's just fine. And then we're calling Thursday back and forth, the Thursday before we're all supposed to be in the county that's going on. So if we could have that ahead of time so that we don't need the whole bureaucracy to get that work to be done, then I would find that to be very useful. So if you can't tell, I'm going to be supporting this proposal. Kathy.
Oh, well, I'm also going to say, for those who might not know, Steve has been really a point person on organizing for this one and getting schedule kind of organized, a lot of paperwork. Gail, of course, is on the ground and organizing local kind of stuff. But Steve has been really, for not having experience, like organizing an event, just kind of like kept taking a lead on putting on.
I do need to put a point on that, in that people give me a lot of praise for how I've been handling this AMM, but what you're seeing is me here hitting the ground running because of all this work that he's been doing in the background. He's put a lot more into this than I have. Absolutely no question about it.
Don't forget Robin's work.
Absolutely.
Well, so since we're saying stuff, so I want to thank everyone because there was a point, this to be to share with the Green Party family, I'm going through a relationship change. So there were some times where I had to and I was not available for maybe a couple of days or so. So thank you all for understanding. So I still give kudos to Steve, everyone else.
Here, here.
Thank you, everyone. So do you have more that you'd like to say, or should we move on to affirming this?
Well, do we have any more discussion on the date? Because you had.
Well, we're going to affirm it first, and then we're going to go straight to dates. So we're going to start by taking suggestions. So, consensus seeking. Do we have any objections to what has been proposed regarding hosting 2020 AMM for unforeseen circumstances? Any objections? I will count that resolution as passed.
Preferably in Melbourne, right? 'Cause that's where most of you guys are.
I know Rose is taking notes. Sonny, you're taking notes for today's meeting? All right, so you'll mark that down for us. Excellent.
We're at the end of 192, and you drive across. I guess one there.
All right, so you see behind me a map of 2020. Do we want to, does anyone have any suggestions on what we may want to do?
I would suggest, just from what I know about getting hotel rooms, or, you know, if we run into a situation where people have to pay for accommodations, I would suggest the same weekend next year, because we just looked it up. Memorial Day is May 25th in 2020. That's when your prices are going to be the highest and everywhere's packed and it's going to be sold out by March. So we don't want that weekend. The weekend after Memorial Day tends to be, at least in Volusia County, and I'm thinking it's probably similar.
It's big time.
Yeah, it's dead this weekend. So you can get a decent deal and you're not going to find that everywhere's sold out. So I would say either this same weekend, if you wanted to make it earlier, possibly that last weekend in April. Because earlier in May, you got Mother's Day, you got Memorial Day, all that other stuff.
Yeah, and so if you do June, you would probably want to do that first weekend because of our annual.
Right.
Right.
The Green Party annual always kind of runs in July.
Yeah, we can't have it any later.
Yeah.
So what date is that, Luo?
So we have two sets of dates that I heard, unless I missed the conversation. We're looking at, so far it's been suggested, May 29, 30, 31,
Yeah.
and April 24, 25, 26.
I'm from May 29th.
Yeah.
Do we have any more suggestions of dates to put up here? All right, so we have suggestions May 29th and May 29th. So please raise your hand if you think May 29th is an appropriate weekend, and maybe we can get consensus right now on that. All right, is that opposition? Do you oppose the 29th?
What about April? What happened with that?
We're doing both. We're doing it right now. I just want to know how you feel about that. So you grab it. Okay, all right. So I see two hands that were not raised. Do we have, yes?
There seems to be some confusion. Would you restate what you're asking for?
All right. We're right now there are two dates on the table. I'm going to be polling each one. Initially, it seemed that the last weekend in May was just for filling the room, the most popular one, so I put that one first, thinking that maybe we get consensus on that.
Could we have the show of hands on that again?
One more time, May 29th, you can show of
And I
hands.
was in the bathroom, so I'm going on that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Can we see a show of hands on April 24, 25, 26? 1, 2, 3.
Looks like May.
Do we want to?
Sorry.
Do we want to see consensus? We want to try and all right. So we will allow
There's
this
only
to
been
be
so many hours in the
Right.
day.
I
You gotta rearrange
want to follow the process. I want the minority to have a voice, you know. So all right. So the date has been established.
Okay, so we're last weekend of May.
Yes. All right. Moving forward, Assistant Treasurer, we have two nominees.
Who's the other nominee besides
Gail.
Rogelio?
Gail.
Oh, Gail?
Yeah, well, Bo nominated me when he thought Rogelio wasn't going to do it.
Are you withdrawing your nomination?
Gail?
Honestly, I'm actually looking over these GPUS committees, because if I do that, I can't do another one of these.
Understood.
So why don't we leave that one to Rogelio?
Okay, so Gail,
Should we have a discussion about the duties as outlined for that?
Yes, we'll go through that, but we've got some more things to go down through here. Actually, let's just, okay, we'll go do duties right now. Thank you for getting me ordered up here, guys.
see ballot access at the national level. In states that don't have it, yeah, that's what that is. That's not about local stuff, that's something we need to do locally. In other words, we need a Florida Green Party ballot access initiative to try to change the way the voter registration. Yeah, this is a national.
Consider like a proposal to that.
Yeah, just Well, the trick is to get them to do it and not have to do a petition.
All right, the duties as they appear in our bylaws as of last year, and I'm pretty sure they've not changed.
That's not really bylaws, but.
All right. We have the co-chairs. They serve as the chair and vice chair for the purposes of fulfilling state and federal election law and state corporation law requirements. The co-equal co-chairs are responsible for the following: providing unifying direction to the state board of trustees, drafting an agenda and chairing regular meetings of the board, helping the board to coordinate and achieve its work, and assisting the board in coordinating and assisting the work of the state party committees. For clarification, the board consists of the first 7 offices that we just went through. 2 co-chairs, secretary, recording secretary, communications secretary, treasurer, assistant treasurer, as the 7-member board that the co-chairs are to manage. Yes.
So we no longer have any at-large board members. Did we eliminate that?
Up to 2, I guess, of those 7.
We used to have like 9 board members, and so we're like, there'd be like at least 2 at-large members. But there's been more than that because
All right.
we didn't have all these assistants.
We had Steve's hand first and
Multiple
then Kevin.
secretaries and stuff before. So.
From the bylaws I read, that are admittedly from August of last year, it was just the 4 board members that were officers that were automatically on the board, and up to
Right.
5 additional.
When we got 7, that's probably enough. I'm just asking if you still do that.
Do we have to?
Because they're not on there.
So I'm not sure if I read the bylaws that came after that, but the bylaws I read said we have the 7 board members, because it must have been after they what yours read, because it included the assistant roles, and nothing beyond that, it was limited to those 7.
Right. So no more at-large.
No at-large.
None at large.
Which is fine. I mean, 7 board members is.
Sounds like the bylaws were changed without the proper procedure.
Well, it would, I'm sure.
No, the whole situation with the adding the assistant roles was definitely, it was before I joined, but it was definitely worked over, and it was a small proper procedure was done, but it's on file with the state.
Yes.
The bylaws I printed out were downloaded from our GPFL website, so maybe it just wasn't updated.
Perhaps that's the case.
That might be the case, because it was 2017, right before
Before
the
the-
annual meeting of
right.
2017, which was happened, and it was voted on properly.
But this is what's on file with the
Correct.
division elections.
Correct.
Those 7 positions as members of our board.
Absolutely no question about it.
Period.
Period.
That's good.
All right. Official treasurer serves as the official treasurer for the party for the purposes of fulfilling state and federal election law and state corporation law requirements. The treasurer is also responsible for presenting financial reports to the board of trustees, state CC, and the general membership meeting. Oh, we do need to get a
And we
report
haven't
from
had a
you.
treasurer's report yet, have we?
Yeah, thank you. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to get a treasury report for you. So if you want to just send that up, I'll put it up on the screen once you guys can send it to me. You can probably send the one from the last call we had. Just resend that one. And official secretary. The official secretary serves as the official Florida State Listed Secretary for the purposes of fulfilling state and federal election and state corporation law requirements. Receives and sends official party correspondence and keeps copies of all official documents. The secretary, all right, that's all we have there.
So all the membership forms of all the local members would be held by the secretary.
Correct. Assistant treasurer trains under the official treasurer and is also in charge of state fundraising efforts. Recording secretary maintains the minutes of the board of trustees, the minutes of the state CC, and the minutes of the meetings of the general membership. To record and report for state CC proposals, votes, and resolutions. And the communications secretary is a liaison to the state IT team, has access to GPFL info.org to maintain party communications between and among the state CC and various county parties and locals, as well as outside inquiries. Keeps track of delegates and local contact information, since new delegates and contacts the appropriate official state spokespersons for comments and appearances.
That's the communications.
Communications secretary, correct. So those are those 7 roles. The role of spokesperson. The Green Party of Florida has spokespersons who act as contact persons for the media and are authorized to speak for the party. We may also have individuals who are authorized to speak on a case-by-case basis relative to a particular event or issue. Ideally, having a regional spokesperson guarantees that we have ones who can attend events and also be aware of general issues in the area of the state and where they live. Spokespersons, yes.
I just wanted to say about spokespersons, that I hope that our spokespeople, can be a little more active this year, and, timely in addressing things that are out in the news and getting our Green Party platform out there, and really, like I said, continue this momentum that we have. Spokespeople are vital to that, and, I hope they would, whoever is our spokespeople would show a lot of initiative in that regard. Not just, and also, report to the, CC as to, what they're doing.
Henry.
Having been a spokesperson once for my part of Florida, I would get contacted at least once a month by somebody. Through one of the news agencies or something out of Tallahassee regarding, what's the Green Party's position on this? What's the Green Party's position on that? And it was pretty regular. It was like at least once a month. So, Karen took it over the year after I had done it.
Are you interested in standing again for spokesperson?
Well, I could again for my part of the state specifically because the panhandle of Florida has little or no representation except for me.
And it's right next to Tallahassee, which kind of
And
matters.
Tallahassee is 100 miles away.
Right.
So.
In Florida, that's right next to
Which is, and during session, I usually make a couple of trips up there anyway.
That's called a Panhandle region?
Yeah.
We'll call it that, yes. North,
Okay.
West Florida.
And what's the name?
Northwest, or Panhandle.
What's the name? Are we
Henry.
doing
Henry.
locations now, or what's the rules now?
Right now, I'm a combination.
Okay.
So I read the roles that we have nominees for. I just read the role for spokesperson, and since he talked about his experience with it and how he felt maybe he could fulfill the role, I asked Kerry to be nominated.
Okay.
He said yes. Can you put more nominees, please?
Okay, and then I just want to point out, as you said earlier, that both you and Robin are already endowed, I guess, with that role.
Correct.
As spokesperson. And then, are we doing it in previous times? We've done it either, as, 1, 2, 3 spokespersons. We didn't have a specific limit or number, I guess, but, that were covering the state. But we also done it regional. Are we doing it in a regional fashion right now, or?
I think it comes down to what nominees we can get. If I understand the bylaws correctly, these roles are not required for us to be considered fully functioning.
The state doesn't require us to have spokespeople. It's something we actually need because it gives us
Correct.
people contact points for the media.
Yes.
I would go, you're gonna stay for the Miami?
So Steve's no longer.
Jeff, that's the floor, and I'll go back to you, Jeff.
I would suggest that the board take on the task of figuring out what to do with the spokesperson. It's kind of somewhat new territory. We can come up with a lot of bright ideas, but how do we decide which is the brightest? Let them worry about it.
Kathy and then Terry.
Well, and that might be a way to do it. And also then I was gonna say, besides regional, you can also do it by area, by topic, like environmental versus candidate versus diversity, whatever, different topics.
At one time, we only had 2 spokespeople. 3-5 years ago, we only had 2. And they basically kind of, if one couldn't answer, the other one did. And co-chairs are kind of on the thing for being ad hoc spokespersons because of their titles, because they're the co-chairs of the state party. So the spokespersons were really there to back up the co-chairs, to have somebody to pass something off to. And traditionally, it would be, the spokesperson would be somebody who's savvy, like somebody who's an attorney that can answer legal questions, somebody who's been a political activist that can answer the political questions for me. So that would be more me because of my political
Question.
So
Okay.
it's up to the, it's up to you guys to decide how you wanna do it, for sure.
I'm on the stack. I've got you next Sunday. I'll go back and explain progressive stack afterwards. I'm going to try and respond to both Jeff and Steve. I agree with both of you and in both your statements. And if reelected, we'll definitely go back and look at the bylaws and consider if we only have one or two spokespersons. If our bylaws allow at-large members of the board, then perhaps getting them on the board is a way to make sure that they're in the fold on the monthly calls, and that way they know the feel and the pulse of what we were doing and what needs to be done, and keeping them active and motivated. And I'm sorry, I actually the stack, but since then
Okay, no, I was just
I think that that also goes to what you were addressing also, Jeff. All right, so Sunny.
I just have a question about the regions, because you're right, we don't have anyone, and I would really love for someone to go to all these events, because they're always sticking a microphone in your face, and we do need to put that out there. So, are we central, we're the Central Florida region? Okay, all right, I just wanted to see if there was,
Is someone in your chapter who'd like to step
are
up?
any of those people, these people in our area? I don't know.
Right now, we have one single nominee.
Robin, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Robin, we realize it's redundant for Robin to be a spokesperson because she's a spokesperson and co-chair. Well, you're right. You're already doing it anyway. You guys have seen her live stream. You saw her when she went up to the Panhandle during the hurricane. So, Kathy and then Steve.
Oh, well, I was going to
I'm sorry.
nominate Steve also to be on, in that role, because he's been kind of picking up on issues like he was writing Preston and something like that. I don't know who was myself.
This Steve, our secretary, he's got a secretary now. You don't even know.
Okay, yeah.
He is declined the nomination.
But I was thinking that I probably won't want to be a voted one, but in our area, like Robin was last time, just because there's nobody there, I would like to do that because
So you
there's a
nominate-
lot going on in the Space Coast.
So you nominate yourself to the role of secretary.
Every local
Just that
can,
spokesperson.
I'm not spokesperson.
Yeah.
every local can designate as many spokespersons as it wants for that local.
Okay.
But you want to nominate yourself or you accept your nomination as
Yeah.
a single spokesperson.
Do we agree? Yeah.
The spokesperson is to act as the state Green Party.
Right, that's what I'm saying. As a state
Not
level
the local,
spokesperson.
I mean,
Right,
if I-
right.
I got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Steve.
I just wanted to add on the initiative, we have all kinds of things on Google Drive as far as press contacts, and I'd like to see GPFL issuing regular statements to the press. I don't think we've been doing any of that too much, and it's actually a lot of work to coordinate. Kathy was good enough to do it for the AMM, but I think we want to look to our spokespeople as our people that take our things to the press.
Well, I'd like to point out, Steve, I'm sorry, LeBeau stack. I'd like to point out that if you look at how our bylaws and our structure is set up, it's kind of a cascading thing. So as a secretary, that's kind of going to be your quarter of the responsibilities. The spokesperson report to the communications secretary reports to the secretary. So this is something that I see you're fiery about, and definitely, the board will be happy to work with you to make sure that happens. Anyway,
So
your next
if
door.
somebody from Tallahassee calls you as our secretary and asks you about a specific issue that might deal with Northwest Florida, then you might want to bring me into it. Otherwise, you can answer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why it's nice to have the regional spokespersons, because Florida's stretched out 900 miles. From Pensacola to Key West, we're 900 miles long, so there's a whole lot of territory between Key West and Pensacola to deal with, and issues to deal with that are specific, like Pensacola. I mean, they've got their own pile of crap over there to deal with, trust me. And South Walton County and Tallahassee and Bay County, everybody's got issues that are going to rise to the top, and people are going to want to ask, well, what's the Green Party's position on, say, the cleanup of Hurricane Michael, whatever.
Right.
I'd be more able to answer that question because I live there.
Absolutely.
Versus, if they ask me about something going to Key West or Miami, I don't know. What's going on? So
All right.
we don't want to have anybody being a spokesperson for a specific region that's not,
In that region,
In
right.
that
Our media savvy, correct. Joel.
It's too late for me to nominate someone for
Not at all.
I would like to nominate Kathy Gilbert.
Oh, I decline, thank you.
Trust me, if Kathy will accept any nomination, she'd already be up there. I ought to make sure of that. But we appreciate that.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of stuff that's tactical and
We can't hear
additional.
you, Jeff.
We're talking about a lot of stuff that's tactical and conditional as far as what happens where. And I think it's a mistake for this body to work out those details. This is why we have a board, and so I think we have a sense now that we'd like our spokespersons to be more active, and I would take it at that.
Understood. Thank you very much for keeping us on track here. Jeff does make a good point that we have a lot of business to take care of here, and we can talk about these things after. As far as, I'm sorry?
Yeehaw.
Okay. So let's move forward. Do we have any more nominees for spokesperson? All right. Moving down the list, we have GPUS delegates. We are allowed to send up to 3 delegates to national, as well as 3 alternates. In the same way that the coordinating council of the state is made up of its delegates from the counties, and that's the top-making decision body for our state party. The delegates that we send will serve on the national committee with delegates from all the other states to be the decision-making body of the GPUS. We have 3 nominees for the role of delegate right now. Maggie, who has indicated that she'd like to stand again. I believe Henry has indicated that he'd like to stand again. And Kim O'Connor has indicated that she'd like to stand for that office. Is there anyone else? We also have the roles of alternate delegates. Alternate delegates are combination alternate delegates and observers. If a delegate is not able to make a vote, then an alternate can make that vote for them under those circumstances only. And they will have access to the email list for CC, so they can also watch it and get a feel for how things work on the national level. You can wait and dip your toes if you want to find out how national works. Steve.
Question. Is it unlike Florida level where our locals, we have a couple of delegates, and we have alternates, but sometimes if one of our delegates doesn't show up, the other may vote all the votes. But one on national, that's not the same.
Correct. And furthermore, alternates on the state level is a custom. There's no office of alternate. The idea in our bylaws is that if someone's not allowed to, or not able to make a meeting, then they can, the local can designate an alternate for one meeting. There's no actual official alternate, like there's an official alternate here on this list for international. Steve.
Try to be quick. I was an observer at the beginning since last day, and I had to remove myself because it's an inundation of email. So it's a big job being a delegate and an alternate or an observer. Your inbox is going to be flooded with these emails.
You have to subscribe it on the digest format so you don't get 1,000 emails a day.
We're here, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish. Sorry.
I'd also like to point out that we need a better mechanism for getting the alternate in when our dedicated delegate is not able to vote. I went back and looked, and there was a 2 or 3 month period where Maggie wasn't voting, and nobody stepped in to do that.
Once again, I'm going to go with what Jeff was saying, and that's business. We're going to have a board meeting after this meeting, and this is business we can handle.
Well, if it's pertinent to the vote, then I'd like to call again for a nominee, someone that is going to definitely do it the whole time.
I will be calling nominees. We got some hands up, and then we'll get back to you.
Kathy contacted me. When was it?
Well, I've contacted you over a period of time, but,
Yeah.
last couple months ago. But we talked most recently about the alternate, position, this last month.
Yeah. So basically, there was a vote. There's proposal 955. Right. That I failed to lost
But it's a
access.
pain.
The what?
But it's a pain. It's difficult to vote on
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah, I lost access to it, so I'm working on getting access back. I failed to vote on it. It's like I was informed that Catherine informed me that I was the alternate. Well, basically, like because of personal problems, my personal life collapsed this month a little, so I couldn't keep up with that. But I do plan on I wish there was this communication because I didn't know there needs to be like that communication, like if if a delegate is unable to vote. I want that communication, but yeah, but yeah, I'm ready. I would like to nominate myself to be the alternate.
All right, Captain, you can add it to the list. I need to actually come clean here. I don't know if I have failed to mention this, but the board has been hobbled this year. We lost all of our secretaries, and we're not able to replace them. So a lot of stuff did not get taken care of properly because of that, because those duties involve the people who already have lots of duties. So a lot of the things that let's go forward and move stronger and make sure we have better communications. This will be something that we're focused and dedicated to. Kathy's just gone through and we're still working on putting all our files in an order that makes sense. So when the new secretary steps in, easily knows this is where proposals go, this is where this goes, this is where that goes, and that is definitely on the blotter to be taken care of this year, to be addressed. And thank you for reminding us and keeping your board accountable. But I do want you to know that we expect to be much better this year, Pat.
Yes, I don't know if I don't know you guys can tell me the bylaw people, but I would like to nominate Rogelio for an alternate, is one of our third alternates. And I don't know if this is the space to explain my reasoning for that.
Alternate delegate? Oh, versus you want to nominate as a delegate.
Right.
You accept the nomination as a delegate rather than an alternate delegate.
Can you explain
It's the same thing, but you will be an alternate.
Right, you serve the one who actually votes every time. It's not like you wait for a call from us. You watch the email list, the votes are, the voting dates are always Friday, right?
The vote is,
The voting dates are always the same day as the week, aren't they? The vote.
I don't know if there's a regular,
Yeah, that's not the regular day.
what the regular date is.
So instead of being an alternate, you can actually wait for a call to say so-and-so can't make the vote.
Yeah.
You would actually be
Okay.
making the vote, you'd be reporting back to the council as to what kind of votes went on, et cetera. You can't, well, first of all, you accept the nomination.
Yes.
All right, so, Kathy.
It's not like they're gonna be getting a call, you have to actually be paying.
Yeah.
And you have to go into the voting page, and the vote, there could be 2, 3, 4 proposals up at a time.
Yeah.
So it's not just one proposal, but you have to actually vote.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be able to vote, you need to let your alternates know that they need to vote.
Okay.
Because somebody needs to actually be, it was difficult for us to kind of connect, so
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
Steve.
Two things. How many delegates are we allowed?
Three alternates.
I think we want to be much more enforcing our bylaws where we're going reports from. We got regular reports from.
Yep, I did mention that.
Stay in touch with us.
Yeah.
Same with everybody on the national committee.
Yes, and once again, I know this is more board talk, we need to be dealing with this, but I intend to get with Steve and rewrite our meeting notes procedures, reviewing the minutes. It's going to be something that we're going to be doing at every single meeting, along with the treasurer's report, along with reports back from committees, etc. Rose.
Yeah,
And then Jeff.
okay. I know that Maggie's very interested in serving again. She admits that she's missed a few votes and has not given, she feels she needs to give more reports, and that's something she wanted to, she never went 2 or 3 months without casting a single vote.
Noted.
That's the matter.
Jeff.
Yeah, since we're naming names, I would suggest that Maggie is more likely to do the voting she needs to do than Kim O'Connor, who has a certain track record as a CC rep for the Ozone system, whether functioning or not, and whether representing who she's supposed to be representing.
All right, so this is an open meeting, so we're going to try to refrain from naming names. I understand. No, that's fair. She's not here, so we're just gonna say, I'm gonna ask you a question, Kathy, then you give you the floor. Is the best way to do this simply to take all the people who want to be delegate, rank choice them, and pop the people at the bottom off as alternates, or do we need to do them separately?
Okay, we can do it different ways, but what I'm going to bring forward now that this has come up, is that Clark did tell me that if we have a slate of 3 delegates, that she would be happy to run as an alternate.
All right, so that's settled.
So we can make him an alternate, Rogelio can take the third delegate seat.
Correct.
No, move forward.
Moving forward, I would like to close this. Agreed? Do we have any more nominees for alternate delegate? We have 2 more slots available.
Aaron, any interest in nominating you for as an alternate?
No, is that the thing where you have to pay attention to a lot of emails?
That's the thing you pay attention to a lot of emails when someone calls you and says, I can't vote.
I overheard that much well, the treasurer.
Okay.
The treasurer report was enough.
All right.
Thank you.
We have another nomination on the floor. Suzanne Fernando is being nominated. We're asking if you'd like to accept the position of alternate delegate. Let's just say that you will receive the emails. It's a way of, as I see it, as a way of seeing how being a delegate national works, and it's something that you can deal with. And then if one of the regular delegates does not make a vote, then they will get with you and say, I can't make that vote. Please cast that vote for me. All right.
Susan's last name.
And delegates, there is a group chat that was created, so that.
For delegates.
Don't look over here.
And then.
Because you were a delegate at one time
Yes.
before you were coaching.
That's why I'm.
Right.
And so, but
I remember.
those proposals, guys, we can, talk about it on the.
Yeah, we'll create a new group chat.
We know we still have a list for it.
Yeah.
That we
So
want to use.
as the minute taker, delegates, Maggie, Henry, Aurelio, alternates, Suzanne, and Kim.
Yes.
Okay.
Susan. Suzanne or Susan?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or Suzanne. Suzanne is the lead out there.
All right.
So that's S-U-C-A-N-R-E. And E.
I may have substituted some formatting. No, I didn't. Okay. And then we have the list observer. We can have as many observers as we want, right?
Yes.
So, all right. Can you add Joel to our list observer? All right.
Okay, Joe, and is anyone else listed?
Anyone else care to observe the list? See how
Kathy G and Josh B. Are you-
Kathy Gilbert, Josh
Are you still
Pritchett.
gonna be an observer?
Kathy Gilbert, Josh Pritchett.
Josh.
And Joel, I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Sears.
I have a question.
And what's your name?
Does the, this observer always look at the list, required to look at the list every, day?
There's a,
It's my understanding the list observer has no actual duties. They simply have access to read the emails. I don't think you can send emails. Just open your inbox and you can get a feel for how things go. Maybe say, hey, state, I don't think that, what's going on here in Nashville is so kosher or whatever. So, we have Henry and then Kathy.
so Joel, just so you know, there's 2 lists that delegates, alternate delegates and observers will be subscribed to. One's called the National Discussion List, which is where we discuss, issues that are important to the national party. The other one is called the Votes List, where it's designed specifically to discuss proposals or votes that are being taken case on the list. The problem you get into in Nashville in these 2 lists is people will use the Votes List to discuss things.
It's hard not to, I
That's what
assume.
it's for. So you have to, the moderators are constantly saying, please move your discussion over to the discussion list and take it off the votes list. So it becomes a problem. And I get it in a digest format, and even on the digest format, sometimes I'll get 2 or 3 chunks of digest a day. So it's a whole
Over
lot
hot
of,
issues usually.
it's a whole lot of, not always, it happens, if there's major discussions taking place, then you're gonna have a whole lot more dialogue.
All right, Kathy, and then Jack.
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest for all, new GPUS delegates that you create a separate email address possibly, because there will be a lot of mail, and it's just one way to keep that mail, in one place.
That's a great suggestion, Jeff.
Per Robert's Rules of Order, move the question.
All right. The last thing I'm going to do is just, all right, we'll deal with committees later because we don't have to vote on those. That's pretty much a volunteer basis. So, the board of the Green Party of Florida would like to present to the new membership this slate of nominees to serve the official roles that need to be filled out. Can we have consensus on accepting this slate? Do we have any objections? All righty. Excellent. Mission accomplished.
Now we're officially connected. It was officially.
Move the question.
G plus committees. I'm just going to read this. I'm going to go down this list of committees really quickly. And if you want to join a committee, then come and talk with us at the end of the meeting, and we will get you on those lists. I'm just going to read them out loud quickly. We have the Accreditation Committee, chaired by our own Rose Roby. We have the Animal Rights Committee, the AMM, Annual National Meeting Committee, the Apportionment Review Committee, the Apportionment Tabulation Committee, the Ballot Access Committee, the Banking and Monetary Reform Committee, upon which I currently sit, the Bylaws, Rules, Policies, and Procedures Committee, the CCC Committee, the Coordinated Campaign Committee, the Credentials Committee, the Dispute Resolution Committee, the Diversity Committee, Eco Action, Finance, Fundraising, the Green Pages, which is basically our newsletter committee, International, Media, Merchandise, Outreach, Peace Action, Platform, and Presidential Campaign Support Committees. Sonny, you have a hand up before I go to caucuses?
I see the International Committee has a lot of our people on it already.
Those people on the blue respond to the
Correct.
Can I sit on that?
Absolutely. Just remind me a little later on, or remind her Kathy putting back now. Steve.
Yes, but, of course, this goes without saying, it goes with the approval of the SEC.
Understood. Do we have any objections
Sonny wants to be on the International Committee.
to Sonny being on the International Committee? If we can arrange room, I know that Elijah has completely dropped out of membership on that committee, and I don't think that we have a membership cap, do we?
Okay, so I'm just gonna point out that this first column is the current members that we have on these committees, and this second column is actually meant for those people who have actually said that they want to be on this list this year.
This year.
And so I'm sure it's missing names that may have preferred to go over, but I put names over here that I have actually heard from over there. Now I think Rose, I'm not sure if I have you on there, Roy. But I just clicked on the accreditation committee and tree group. I'm having trouble getting on the web right now, so I can't see.
All right, so Rose and Kathy, please talk about that back there. We're going to move on. No, you guys go talk about it. I'm going to move on. Caucuses. Caucuses are identity caucuses. These are lateral caucuses for things that are personal qualities. We have a Black Caucus, Latinx Caucus, the Latino Caucus, the Women's Caucus, and the Youth Caucus. Once again, if you're interested in joining any of those caucuses, let us know aside from the proceeding of this meeting, and we'll take care of that.
And there has been discussion of a gray dog caucus too.
A gray dog caucus.
Yeah, the gray dog.
I like that.
Do these people
Old gray dogs.
do these people that were on these committees, I mean, does their term automatically expire, or do we have to notify national? National think they're still on this committee, still on the E-list? How does it transition?
Please bring that up later on, and we'll make sure that we take care of that business. So, because for example, I know that Elijah has fully withdrawn from all participation on the national level, so he's just out. I know that
Through anything where Elijah's name is, then it's
Right.
we didn't put anything new for him over here, so that doesn't matter.
Okay, so, okay.
And I know, for example, that Rose and Jen were both nominated or elected for 2-year terms, so their terms are not up, so we need to look at some of that stuff.
Yeah, but I've noted Jennifer quit, and it's looking like Gail's joining us on accreditation.
Beautiful.
And there is one more, yes, she did, she officially resigned from the accreditation committee approximately 3 months ago. And that's an I resigned from accreditation.
Jennifer has?
Yeah.
So you're the only one still on it from Florida?
I can provide you with email. It's not something I would. Says, I did this other thing, and I don't want to be other.
She's still in the women's caucus.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
It's
the
not ever tonight.
it changed dramatically, and it was pretty much dissolved and reconstituted. And in a different form, they rewrote all their bylaws and everything, so she went out of like the form of the new committee. Again, really wouldn't be doing that, but.
I think she said it
But
was
I can support that she has dropped that. All right, so I believe we're done with elections. Is that correct? Henry?
There's this thing called the Coordinated Campaign Committee,
Yes,
the
sir.
CCC. They do like regular workshops throughout the year.
Absolutely.
And so at one point in time, I was asked to be a liaison for the Green Party of Florida to that committee versus just being a member of the committee. I was the contact point in Florida. The CCC was doing a workshop. They'd let me know, and then I would broadcast it out, get a listserv, or get on a conference call and bring it up or whatever. Is anybody doing that anymore? Do we have a liaison to the campaign board?
No, we do not. I believe that's an observer role.
And with an annual election coming up in 2020 with all these 5 presidential candidates, that's one of the things.
Are you interested?
I'd be willing, for this next year. Yeah.
Kathy, are we allowed to send observers to every committee?
Yes, we are.
All right, please put Henry down as observer to Triple C
Well,
committee.
put me down as the liaison for the Green Party of
Right.
Florida to the CCC, to the Coordinated Campaign Committee.
Steve.
Because I'm still on their email list. I still get all their stuff, so.
I'm not sure where we're at in the process, but where are we at?
So we've elected all the elected roles, and now my point was just to mention all the names of committees and ask people to nominate themselves or volunteer for the committees offline so we can move forward. But we did have a couple of questions about the specifics of the rules of committees that we had to handle in between. So we're moving forward from here. My plan is after we close this out, we're going to go into bylaws. So if it's more about personnel, then now's the time to bring it up.
Okay, I think it's worth mentioning, and I don't know if I come from Pennsylvania where the laws are different, so you can tell me. But the state used to require us to have a committee to fill vacancies. In other words, if someone was running for office and they croaked or something happened and they couldn't do it anymore, then the state party was assigned the responsibility of putting in a replacement name.
In Florida.
I'd like to respond to that. I had to read the election laws last year. Robin had to read the election laws last year. I can almost guarantee that that's not in Florida law. So that's some national law that we're hearing about. I can almost guarantee that's not the law here. Joel, go ahead.
I would like to nominate someone who, at minimum, is Rich Green and his name is Phil Woodrow for the Peace Committee.
Do you have a direct line of contact with him?
Yes.
All right, so this is not an election, so I need you to just have him contact us and tell us of his interest in that committee, and we'll go from there.
In the Peace Action Committee.
Yeah, that would look very much again.
Any more questions on personnel? Yeah.
Volunteers can sign up later? Is that the-
Absolutely. These can be filled any time of the year. For example, we filled the accreditation committee in October of last year when there was drama happening there that people felt the need to get involved with. So we're just handling this right now as a convenience while we have people here to help them understand what the committees are, that they're available, and get as many people as we can, liaising with the national so that we can make sure that our voice is heard on the national level. Kathy.
So I was offline during part time, but I'm back online. I added names in that I was trying to, but I don't know if I missed any names that were supposed to be added in the US committees.
Any more questions, comments, concerns regarding this matter? Henry and Gail?
So, since we voted this slate, who are our spokespersons? Because we never really clarified the spokesperson's issue.
Yeah, we did. The spokespersons are Maggie, you, and Rogelio, with Kim and Suzanne as.
No, those are delegates.
Delegates, sorry. Spokesperson.
Above where this says delegates, you notice there's 4 slots for regional spokespersons.
Right, and we only had 2 people, we only had 2 nominees.
Well, and he does not doing it anymore, obviously, right?
No, she doesn't even live here.
Just to say, Henry and Sunny were
We're
elected,
Robin
and Robin and Legault already are, and then on the board, there's gonna be discussion about the roles, and now we figure out how to move forward.
So it'll be Robin and LeBeau and me that are spokespersons, basically?
No, the official role spokesperson is going to belong to Sonny and Henry.
Okay.
The co-chairs have some spokesperson's duties that are rolled into them, but those
So
are
Sonny's
the
gonna be the other spokesperson.
And then we will discuss amongst the board how to integrate spokespersons in a better way to make sure that they are working possibly with at-large board seats if our bylaws currently allow that, or whatever, but we'll get that later.
Okay, no worries.
All right, yeah.
I got a question because
Just to quickly, I added myself as a volunteer for the Banking and Monetary Reform Committee. I'm
Right.
not sure that I'll be doing anything useful right away, but I'm really interested in learning about the green perspective.
We can work on that one together because I'm new to that one. Yes, Derek's
Yeah,
a very anti-community.
My background is in economic research, but I really need to wrap my head around this.
We'll get together and talk about the green dollar platform. Public banking, I don't hear you we'll talk about cryptocurrency, but we need to move forward.
Yeah.
Any more on personnel? All right, we are done. Congratulations to all of our new board members and welcome. We will hopefully finish this meeting in time to have an in-person meeting before we head out of here, as our bylaws call for. Okay. Every year, at the annual meeting, we accept discussions for amending our bylaws. The bylaws committee has a slate of bylaws that we would like to present, and so my plan is this. I'm just going to go through, we're not going to be having a discussion, to go through and give you the background of all these amendments, and then open discussion for new amendments that may want to be presented by people who are here, and things like that, and then we'll do the discussion of the voting one by one, one at a line. So this is just a read through. Yes, you're going to be counted. I'm going to do a read through of this, and then you're going to offer, people are going to offer more amendments as we go through. First of all, our bylaws as they appear on our website are horribly formatted, and everyone's had to deal with them and try to download them or read them and knows how difficult it is. Our managing editor, Jeff Roby, was kind enough to go through and painstakingly reformat our bylaws so that they're in a legible form. This required 1 or 2 small renumberings that I truly believe and Jeff truly believes to be a word-for-word copy of our original bylaws with just some minor numberings. So we're going to present that to be accepted, to be sent off to the state. One thing we'll need to deal with is some of these proposals were made before this renumbering. So we'll be voting on these, and if certain letters need to be renumbered when we integrate them, if we accept these new bylaws, then we'll do that. So that's one thing we have. Next we have adopting rules of order, and again, we will discuss this later, but the bylaws committee has proposed that we add to our bylaws the gp.org meeting process manual that describes the consensus process and basically a pretty good rundown of the way that we do business now. And I'd like to codify that. We'd like to codify that to the rules as part of the way that we do business. And one of the reasons that's so important is because secondarily, we would like to fold Robert's Rules of Order into our bylaws as a catch-all for anything our bylaws don't handle and the G+ meeting document does not handle, anything that our Constitution does not handle, anything that our rules that we've written doesn't handle. If we come across a truly new situation that we don't know how to handle procedurally, then you fall back to Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules will never trump anything that we as a party have written down. We'll only cover things that we have not covered if we pass this proposal. we have a proposal for organizing committees. This is a lower threshold of participating on the state party level than getting 5 members together. If you and a couple of your friends in your county want to work together to try to start creating a local or a county party, you can be an organized committee. We can discuss the details of that later, but it comes with lesser privileges, but still you get some support from the state to help you become a full-fledged local or county party if we pass that. Last year, due to some rough patches we hit, we wrote an Article 10 to our bylaws that had a code of conduct and a dispute resolution process that involved a dispute resolution committee with members from every local. We had to declare that committee non-functioning because when it became necessary to use it, we were not able to organize it. As a result of that, we have written a new Article 10. Unfortunately, it's a little more centralized. It centralizes power a little bit, and this I expect is going to be open for a lot of discussion. But we have a new dispute resolution process that we'd like to put forth to the group to see if we can adopt that. We'd like to change some rules about open meetings. As it stands right now, all meetings of the coordinating council are treated like this meeting here, in that any person who has a local or county party can show up on one of our calls and make a full vote. Understand that means that a handful of people in a local who are in the minority of an issue can choose to join the call, and suddenly they're in the majority of that issue because of the way that it's apportioned. We found it to be somewhat undemocratic. So we would like to, while maintaining that meetings are open and maintaining that any member can join the consensus process, if we find we can't reach the consensus process and are forced to a vote, individual members only get a vote at the AMM and not on monthly council calls or other matters.
Say that again.
Individual members will no longer be able to call into the monthly council call meetings and get a vote. They can be involved in the consistency process. They can't vote, but they will maintain their vote at the AMM. We're going to keep the same rules for the annual meeting. It's just for those calls. We'll discuss the details when we fight about those. I promise. And lastly, we're either going to do this one last, or we're going to decide that this is all the slate, because in looking at the process for changing our bylaws, I've discovered that our bylaws can be changed as easily as passing any resolution. This allows for hijack of the party, especially since our bylaws have open meetings and things like that. A handful of people in a handful of counties could suddenly decide to register as Greens, get together a phone call and declare that it's a meeting, and then change our bylaws at will through the same process that we use to create just regular proposals. So we have written new rules that basically says that any outside of the annual membership meeting, any bylaws changes that are passed by the state CC are considered to be standing rules until they are reaffirmed at the AMM.
Amen.
So that will be up on the slate. Kathy has a question?
Yes. Did you say this is the last, and is this only the amendment drafts?
I'm sorry?
Are these in amendment drafts folder?
These are in the, I've gotten these out of the shared, all right, so, I'm sorry. If you go to the handouts folder, there is a document there called Bylaws Proposals for AMM. And each of those has, in there, there's a link to each one of these.
Sorry, there is also still the staggered term elections?
That's the second.
And so I'll drag that to that folder as well.
Please do, and I'll put that one right up there. We will be taking in also new proposals. I know Jeff has a couple, but since this is the one that's already on the table, we had, I don't know, something happened shortly before I joined the council whereby we used to apparently elect co-chairs for staggered 2-year terms, but our bylaws don't actually say that right now. The idea of a staggered 2-year term is that you don't have two new co-chairs who don't know what they're doing, at that point. So we would like, Kathy's proposing that we, yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Kathy's proposing that we amend the bylaws to return to the practice that we've been doing for years anyway, electing co-chairs to 2-year staggered terms. Meaning that next year, if we pass this next year, I would be up for election, and then the year after that, Rob would be up for election. the other way around. It should be Robin and then.
Well, right now, you, both of you have served a year each, right?
Okay, wait, so once we pass this bylaw, I don't know if we wanted to then reaffirm as far as the elections of co-chairs according to this bylaw or not, but as I understand it, since you just served the senior year, the senior co-chair, you would be now beginning a 2-year term, and Robin would be ending her 2-year term, because she was junior last year, and she was
Correct. If I understand correctly, if we had followed the process before the 2-year term, I would get for election this year and Robin would not.
Right.
Meaning that next year, Robin would get for election and I would not.
Right.
You agree with that, Robin? That's how it goes? Because you.
If we were running on staggered terms now, right?
Okay. I don't want to be senior though.
Well, as it stands right now, I'll be the senior co-chair because I've been there longer than you. The senior co-chair only matters. The only difference between the senior and the non-senior co-chair is when their election dates are up and who is called the chair in state documents because they only recognize the chair and the vice chair, not co-chair. Henry.
So, how are we gonna implement the staggered terms without one of you guys having to serve? I mean, you've already both served a year.
Let's discuss that when we have all the proposals in. We'll go in one by one. Jeff has a couple proposals. Do you want the microphone?
Sure. As I was going through formatting the bylaws for the numbers and indent levels and so on, I kept noticing various bylaws that are, shall we say, not in sync with our current practice. Inconsistent with other parts of the bylaws, or simply perhaps nonsensical. So we don't want a situation where we're doing something, thinking we know what we're doing, and then some scholar who actually sat down and read all the bylaws wanted to screw up the work by calling points of order on this, that, or the other. It just gets awkward and it doesn't really make sense. So I have two motions. They're kind of linked. One, the party reaffirms the current method for allocating CC votes at 5 per local plus 1 for each additional 5, capped at 8. No changes to this method are to be made at this meeting. Which doesn't mean if you don't like it, what we got. But if you don't like what we got, then you gotta have something else instead. And then you got a can of worms. And, you know, any luck will be done by the 4th of July weekend. So this keeps us on an even keel until such time as the bylaws committee can take action. And if you think the bylaws committee is dragging its feet, you can always light a fire. But no match. It's just part of the suggestion. Okay. Every word that I say is not a bylaw. And I would just add that if people want bylaw changes, they gotta submit actual language to be put in the bylaws rather than, well, I would like everybody to have one vote or different allocations or whatever. Here it is, then you figure it out. Nope. And The second proposal is many of our bylaws have been subjected to full scrutiny by the bylaws committee, particularly the ones that LeBeau was referencing. So we hereby leave it to the responsibility of the board to make adjustments to the bylaws as currently written until such time as they can be revised or researched by the bylaws committee as the first step in the process. Because this is where, you find there's a mistake, something you really, God, who did this? Wasn't me. And if you then make any actual change to the bylaws, then it's got to go through this whole revision process, submission, 2/3 vote, and then, you want to break down one way, you want to break down another. So what we're saying is the board be empowered to deal with these situations until we can do a more complete and thorough process to do what we have to do.
All right, those bylaws are submitted, and we will formalize the language and get to.
These are the bylaws. These are the motions.
Sorry about that, yes. Steve, you wanted to start. Steve Short.
Well, I just want to talk about one of these proposals there, now's the time.
Let's see if I'll make sure you have time for that. I'm going to get Steve here. I'm going to call for more bylaw proposals, and then we will address this proposal and then the bylaws. Steve.
I assume by reaffirming the vote apportionment that there's some ambiguity in the bylaws as they stand regarding that?
They're pretty straightforward, but
They're not the bylaws, they're
not in the bylaws.
standing rule now.
Yeah, but as a matter of fact, people would keep coming up with interpretation, recommendation, whatever. And
Let's wait on that. We're going to go to it. Do we have any more proposals or bylaw proposals to put on the floor before we begin discussion? All right, I'm going to recommend that we start with the regular proposals first, especially since we have people who want to talk about it right now. So we'll start with the first one, which is reaffirming the current apportionment of votes. Is that correct?
yes,
The current apportionment of votes as it stands is, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, Kathy, if your county or local has turned in 5 forms, you get 5 votes. If you turn in 10 forms, you get 6 votes. If you turn in 15 forms, you get 7 votes. And if you turn in 20 forms, you get 8 votes. And that is the cap for any county, is 8 forms. This is the way we currently do business, though quite often there are discussions around that. So I want to open the floor to debate on this. I know that Steve is on the top of the stack there.
So this is addressing just proposal.
This is addressing just the first proposal that we reaffirm that that's how we do business.
Yes, I like the reaffirmation because this is clearly stated already. And in that proposal it says it shall not, and this is a rule until the CC decides to change it. I don't know why we have to reaffirm it, but I'm okay if we reaffirm it.
because there's been confusion.
I'll let Jeff, okay. Well, your answer, all right.
There's been
Steve's in the stack, and I think I saw Aaron's hand too. Steve, go ahead.
This may be partially my fault, but I've been bringing this to the CC as something that needs to be addressed and maybe redone. And I don't like the hard cap. To me, we want to incentivize people to grow their affiliate, and I think your vote apportionment is a good incentive. It's pretty much all we have. Just like the forms, they're not perfect, but it's all we have to confirm active membership.
I think I'm going to border on that.
Okay.
Because since do not have language to submit, now is not the time to argue.
I'm just commenting.
No, or comment on that in particular. The question is, do we stand pat with what we have until such time as we can do something better? This in no way precludes any changes whatsoever.
I'm going to allow this comment because in the spirit of open discussion. So,
Okay, so, I've been real busy with planning the AMM, so I had told the CC I was gonna bring a motion or a proposal to the AMM, but nothing precludes me from doing that in the future. And, so, still plan to, but I'm fine with the affirmation.
all right, we're going to jump in the stack, and Steve, and then it looks like anyone wants to. I'm sorry, not Jeff. I meant Aaron. Aaron, did you give your hand up? I'm sorry. Is Steve?
Yes, just to reaffirm what you just said, just to reaffirm what we have. I mean, to change it is a big discussion. I mean, there's all kinds of things we can talk about, blah, blah, blah. It's a big discussion. So we're just holding for with what we have until possibly we can think of something better.
LeBeau stack. The bylaws committee actually did approach this subject and spent a significant amount of time talking about it. There was a lot of dissatisfaction with the current system. But when we discussed other alternative systems, we found those, at least the group of us that were on the bylaws committee at the time, to be even more dissatisfactory. Once again, if we have a new proposal, I told John that he should submit a proposal, Steve should submit a proposal, so once that happens, that happens. Kathy?
And again, sorry, it's a little more continuing divergence, but as far as active membership, we've also got a topic about who's paying element. That can be something further talk about in the future.
All right, I will add that to the stack. We'll get a vote on. We'll see consensus on this, and then we'll see consensus on the second one, and then I add your proposal for getting a mandate to discuss this going forward for next year. We are voting to reaffirm the current process of apportioning votes, as I laid them out earlier, explaining 5 votes for 5 forms, etc. Do we have any objections to this reaffirmation? Proposal's passed. Yes.
Before you go to the next proposal, I just want to just inform people that Alan Augustin is apparently a candidate again. He is available to speak to us if we finish before 3 o'clock and we come on.
He's still a candidate.
Let him quit.
I thought he
I'm
quit.
not going into details. I'm just saying if you want to have him stream in before 3 o'clock, before we have to get you out of here, if we're done in time for that, we can have him.
Absolutely, we'll do what we can to sail through. I'm sorry to say that I'm not.
I don't think we're gonna get kicked out if we'll go a half hour.
If that's the case, that'd be awesome.
I know there's another group coming in at 6. They already asked us if we could leave the chairs and tables up so that they don't have to get them back out.
Great.
So as long as we're speedy, and I mean, maybe they'll show up at 4:35, but I don't think anybody's gonna kick us out.
Right. Steve?
It's gotta be returned at 5.
We'll make sure that that's done. And, we can for the Skype, we use the television sound system anyway, so that'll be just fine. That's another hand. All right, Jeff, I'm going to ask you to restate your second proposal.
Okay. Many areas of our bylaws have not been subjected to full scrutiny by the bylaws committee. Thus, we hereby leave it as a responsibility of the board to make such adjustments to the bylaws as they are currently written until such time as they can be remodeled or something like that by remanded to the bylaws committee.
I've got Stack, and then Steve up next. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment that we sunset this rule or force it to be reaffirmed at next year's AMM.
Certainly.
Steve?
That was my concern, that we could possibly have a slippery slope here of power grab, so that you can't leave it until at such time. It has to be resolved before the calendar year is out. And I'm a little queasy with the way it is, but you gotta have to check on it.
I don't know how we can actually put these two things together, because the amendment of bylaws would definitely prevent some of the slippery slope stuff, because anything that the board would choose to do would have to, if we pass this other bylaw, would have to be reaffirmed at the AMM, or it would sunset automatically.
Coming here, I am, unfortunately, I guess, stuck with the task of going through both the bylaws and the Constitution with a fine-tooth comb and finding areas where I find discrepancies and absurdities and so on. So I would offer my personal assurance, at least, that I will finish that task in the next couple of months, so that the bylaws committee and/or the entire party, for that matter, will then be able to take a look at those, so that we're not just walking blind and we want to, oh, let's get lazy and then we can do whatever we want.
LeBeau.
Not real sure what the purpose of this is, and as a point of order, I guess, coming into it, you might think the board kind of is above the CC, but it's actually just the opposite. The board serves the CC. So I don't know why it's being remanded to the board. We have a bylaws committee, and we have processes in place for this. I really don't understand the purpose of it.
I'm going to add that sex space, and I'm actually going to address that very thing. The board has the committees have constantly changing flux of people who have varying levels of dedication. How many here, by show of hands, was aware that the GPFL had a constitution? No one told me that when I took office, and I came across it recently. And for those who don't know, constitutions supersede bylaws. Bylaws are not allowed to violate constitutions, and I'm concerned that we may have passed bylaw changes in the previous years that violate the Constitution, and that needs to be resolved as an administrative issue as much as it is an issue of democracy. So I believe, and I'll let Jeff speak for himself in the stack, that this is the concern that Jeff is putting forth, is that these things have to be resolved. If we have bylaws that are in violation of our Constitution, then they're already null. We just need to make that aware and clear. I think that's why I'm supporting Jeff's proposal. I don't know if that's the cause for it. Jeff's on the staff.
Yeah, this work is potentially torturous. When I started joining the bylaws committee, I had dark, thick black hair. But anyway, the board is a more compact, efficient body on a practical level. On a democratic level, the bylaws pertain to the entire party, and the board is made up of officers who have been elected by the entire party, whereas council reps are only representing their own locals.
The floor is open, and then we're going to ask our recording secretary if she's recording his proposal to read it back as she understands it. We'll affirm that that's what it was intended, and then we'll see if we can seek consensus. The floor is open regarding this proposal. All right, Sonny, can you just give us a feel for what you have recorded regarding this proposal, so we can make sure that we're voting on what was intended? Or do you need a little time to come back to it?
Give me a moment.
All right.
It's the second proposal.
Correct.
And now we scrutinize by the bylaws committee, right up to the board to make adjustments as currently written until they have been remanded to the bylaws committee. It will sunset
That's not part of the motion.
Right,
No, I know, just trying to think
But
what.
it's nice that you're getting.
Right.
It's great, that, you know,
I don't know where it starts, but the board is not above the CC, they serve the CC. Committees are changing with various levels of commitment. The GPFL has a constitution over it that covers over the BL. Some of the BL usurped it, the constitution must be resolved. So I guess that's really what you're asking.
Do we generally understand this as it's being presented? All right, can we get hands for objections so we can start addressing these objections? All right, then I'm going to consider an official test for consensus. Do we have any objections to this standing rule, which will sunset at next year's AMM, to allow what we know what it means?
no, it's summarize.
Yes, to allow the board to take action to make sure our bylaws are consistent with our Constitution and remand them to the bylaws until the bylaws committee is able to do that on its own.
Consistent with the Constitution, each other, and work.
Consistent with the Constitution, each other, and our current practices. Is that what you mean by work?
No, but they actually work.
That they work, that their functionality.
Question about the sunset. Your idea of the sunset was this, that this proposal sunsets, or the proposal was we allowed the board to do this, providing that their ruling sunsets.
No, my proposal, as I understand the standing, is that this rule will sunset. This is power that we're giving to the current board that does not carry over to next year's board.
It's just a temporary thing.
A temporary thing to deal with particular situations because this board has taken a specific interest in bylaws and the next board may not. So,
Okay.
do we have any objections? All right, I consider this proposal passed. Thank you, Jeff. One more proposal that Kathy put forward that reminded me, Kathy, I'm sorry.
This is that we have staggered terms.
No, you have another one that a proposal, not bylaws. You have a regular standing proposal, not bylaws.
Okay, I'm sorry, what do I think?
Proportion of votes?
Staggered terms.
No, but you're saying something else?
You had a proposal that you want to put forth that wasn't a bylaw change that you, and I'm blanking on it. You can come back for it.
I think you told her to wait to.
Right, and that's now. Right, I forgot what it was. No, it wasn't the second term. It wasn't that one. It was something.
She did minutes before that.
She did. It's not coming to me right now. It'll come to us. Okay. So the first one I'm going to put forth is the reformatted bylaws. Regardless of whatever, we're going to have to send. If we change any of these at all, we're going to send the bylaws to the state of Florida. Our secretary will handle that. As I said earlier, we believe this reformatting.
Remember,
Let's do that first, right?
okay, that we have a discussion about dues paying membership.
Yes. Please.
Well, we have, we're going to be having discussions about how we have qualified active members, and how we count votes for each local, and we've had many different ways of approach, whether it's our full list of registered greens, or it's the members who come to our meetings, or it's the members who sign our forms, which is what we currently have. Are those paper members, or are they active members that come to our meetings? Whatever, there's been a variety of issues brought up and discussed. Some green parties, including state parties, have dues paying membership. And in fact, Howie told me up until I think 1992 or 1994, that was kind of the standard. And then it became more of a state, some states had ballot access and having registered greens. There were certain states that suggested that their membership would be based on the registration rather than on who's paying. So you had this division.
I'm sorry, say that again. Registered Greens could be on face, something on face.
Based on registered voters that are, registered voters of that party. So
Okay.
once you had ballot access, you had that access to a membership list in a different way. So, there is a strong tradition for having a dues paying membership for organizations that, both serve strengthening the party, give you a threshold for showing commitment to being part of that local. We can have a discussion at some point about having scale, how we would accommodate different, capabilities. For example, Howard was talking about how in his Teamsters organization, I think it's like 2.5 hours of wages or something like that. I'm not just saying let's have a discussion about this right now, but I'm saying I would like us to take this topic on as far as how we count membership within the Green Party at some point.
If I may summarize, go ahead, sorry, Steve.
Well, that's part of the whole discussion that we tabled that Steve brought up, right? The whole thing about membership and voting and the whole thing.
I would like to attempt to summarize. I believe that Kathy is putting forth a mandate to the board and CC to look into the issue of dues paying membership and be prepared next year with a full presentation and perhaps suggestions on moving forward with that. Is that correct, Kathy?
That I don't say that we have to wait until the end of next year. I think we can start having discussions and even having decisions before that time. Hopefully we can
Here.
Steve.
And just briefly to add to that, to learn more about this dues paying thing, because I don't know if any of us here know enough to explain what the pros and cons are in history, but Howie and Bruce Dixon presented an hour-long program at the National a couple of years ago. That's available on YouTube. So yes.
Do me a favor, send Kathy that link and she can put it in the handouts folder.
I will.
We don't really have time to go into the
No,
ins and outs of it.
that's one of the homework we should all.
Right. So we'll see in the folder of handouts. We will put a link to the YouTube video where the National Party has had some extensive discussions on this. And do we have any objections to this mandate of making sure that the CC is tasked with looking into dues paying membership and perhaps acting if they find it useful or necessary? Hearing no objections, I consider this to be passed. We will make sure at what we see that we get that item on the agenda for next year's AMM right now to make sure that that process is taken care of by the time that we're supposed to. All right, moving forward, as I said earlier, we have newly reformatted bylaws for the state of Florida that we'd like to put forth to the membership body to accept. We believe them to be functionally 100% equivalent, word for word, with the exception of some formatting. I reviewed them, Jeff reviewed them, and I believe Steve Schoen has reviewed them also.
No, I want to know about that.
We will be, if we pass this, we will be presenting these to the secretary, who can once again compare the two. So I'm proposing that we accept these as the new current bylaws, barring any discrepancies being found between the way they function and the way that these function. And that is to say, if we find any typos or mistakes, if we find any changed words, the whole point is simply to reformat the bylaws and change none of the rules. So I'd like us to adopt this, and of course, if we find anything has been changed, then we will fix that. We have objections, Steve.
Just have a question. Are the official bylaws kept on the Google Drive or where?
The official bylaws will be kept where you choose to keep them as secretary. The real official bylaws are kept on the Department of State website. Those are the bylaws that we're required by law, or that we are held by law to. So no matter what we put on our website or anywhere else, if someone goes to the Department of State and accuses us of breaking our bylaws, the ones that we sent them last are the ones that count. The floor is open for accepting the reformatted bylaws. Do we have any objections? All right, the newly reformatted bylaws will be accepted. And once again, for the current bylaws that we're going to be going through and accepting here for, if numbering is changed, then we will implicitly assume that the number will be changed. So if Article 10 is now Article 9 because of our reformatting, then when we adopt the new Article 10, when we implement it, it'll be Article 9.
there's also the matter of indent levels. You know, Roman numeral, one capital letter, one in parentheses, etc. And anything new coming in will be made to conform to that number level style.
Can we simply agree to empower the secretary to make those small detail changes as long as the change has no meaning of anything that we adopt?
Yes.
Formatting, literally formatting. Capital A's, small Roman numeral I's, etc.
You said empower the secretary?
The secretary is willing to present them to the state.
Oh. Just one thing. Automatic numbers. I've worked for places like Goldman Sachs as a word processor, major international also. Automatic numbering has a bad reputation for being unstable. So I have a different method of setting this up that is, as far as I can tell, absolutely stable. But Steve can't just walk into it thinking making a simple change, and it starts getting messed up every new person who works on it. So we have to, this is not a proposal or a bylaw, but we have to keep a tight rein on who makes changes to the final version of it.
I totally get that, and I think that Steve has indicated that he's very more than willing to work with you to make sure that any adjustments that are made in keeping with the styling and formatting of the work that you've done. All right, you ready to move on to the next item?
Question.
Yes.
Fair. I see on the second line, purposes is spelled wrong. It's just grammatically incorrect.
I disagree with the formatting that the Blue Box has proposed. I believe that the party can have more than one purpose, and they're suggesting there should be one purpose.
Okay.
So I don't agree with their formatting. And furthermore, this is a word-for-word copy of our bylaws as they exist now. We said we weren't going to change a single word, so we can't. I'm not really in a fix that right now. Do we have other appetite to fix the purposes? All right. Thank you, Joe.
There were mistakes in what paragraph was assigned, what number, or what level it was.
And Steve will review those before sending them off to the
Yes.
Department of State.
Right.
All right. We are here now to reaffirm a standing rule that the council has made to add to our bylaws 2 documents of procedure. One of them, I'm not getting to right now, but I will find it. I have it downloaded. Is the GP.org meeting process manual. It lays out the process of consensus pretty much exactly as we do it right now. And the reason that we are adding that in, or looking to add that in, is because we also want to adopt Robert's Rules of Order. I'm going to talk about this a little bit for those who don't know about Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order is a thick tome that tries to answer any question any organization has ever come across, in case, so you don't have to do it yourself, so that you can write your bylaws, your rules, things that matter to you, and for those one-off situations that come up once in a decade, you have a book you can look at and say, well, I guess we never thought about this, so we'll all agree that whatever it says in this book, that's what we'll do. And then afterwards, we don't like what it says in that book, we can make new rules or whatever to override those things. But we find ourselves in cutthroat arguments, wherever we put for an advantage, we have to have a system of rules, which we don't have, and it's caused problems before. So we seek to adopt Robert's Rules of Order because it's hundreds of years old. All kinds of organizations use it. Something like 80% of all organizations in America use Robert's Rules of Order. Most of Robert's Rules of Orders are instructions on how you run a meeting. So by adding in above that the G+ process manual, all those parts of Robert's Rules of Order are moot to us and don't matter. We have our process meeting manual, that's how we run our meetings, we will not change the way we currently run our meetings. But for other questions of organization, when we find ourselves in a sticky situation of not having a rule for a certain thing, then we can fall back to Robert's Rules of Order. I know there's a lot of opposition to Robert's Rules of Order. One of those reasons is because it is not a consensus process. This is a way of us getting the safety of Robert's Rules of Order without the rigid process that we generally oppose being greens. The floor is open for discussion. First of all, do we have any objections? Go ahead.
Question, what version of Robert's Rules, and will we have a hard copy? Where will those be kept?
All right, Steve. I'm sorry to do this to you once again. The version that we passed before is current edition, and I'll talk about that also. The current edition means the most recent edition that came out. The current edition, I think, is the 11th edition. Came out maybe a decade ago. Most organizations will either choose the current edition, that is to say the current edition that when the new version comes out, then that will be the new current edition. Some organizations choose the current editions and they'll say the 2011 version so that it won't increment when the new version comes out. And some people use the 5th edition because the 5th edition is the last copy that was in the public domain. If we use the current edition, somebody's got to own a copy. I own a copy right now, and we have had talked about the bylaws committee asking the CC for money to buy a copy for the members of that committee. But I find the 5th edition, the public domain edition, to be woefully lacking. For example, there's no rules of electronic meetings, which means we can write our own things like that. So this proposal calls for current edition. If someone wants to amend that or suggest an amendment for something different, then the floor is open for that.
What will it cost?
Question.
$11.
And it was published in 2011?
2011, there you go, yeah.
You'd find a used copy somewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the important thing to point out is that
I know I could turn on 2 copies of something.
$11.
the point to point out is that there is no legal digital version of this book. To get to Robert's Rules of Order, you have to buy it. They don't make it on CD-ROM. There's no website you can go to, anything like that. There are plenty of websites you can go to that will explain to you Robert's Rules of Order. Like the organization that makes it has a website where all the information Robert's Rules of Order is in there, but it's a website form as opposed to, in many cases, they'll say, here's what the Robert's Rules of Order say, and then they'll give you a page number, a chapter number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the information is available online and for free, but the actual text of the document itself has to be purchased in physical form. Any more questions before I pass the consensus? Yes.
As I mentioned on our last call, the proposal that's worded there doesn't include the language of the friendly amendment that was accepted. So I would like that language inserted in our minutes.
No, it's here. I put it in.
Okay.
The rules contained in the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order newly revised shall govern the GPFL in all cases to which they're applicable and which they are not inconsistent with the Green Party U.S. Meeting Process Manual. These bylaws and any special rules of order of the Green Party Florida may adopt.
That's not the language that's submitted.
What's the language you submitted?
Well, I can't quote it offhand, but that's not exactly what.
I understand, but I believe it to be functionally equivalent. If I understand correctly, you want it to be clear that the meeting process manual is superseded.
Yes.
And that's what it says. It says that that Robert's rules only come into play if they're not covered by the process manual.
Okay, I'll accept that.
I don't want you to accept it. If you think that it's functionally different, then I want to fix it.
Well, would you mind reading it again one more time?
Absolutely. The rules contained in the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall govern the Green Party of Florida in all cases to which they're applicable and in which they are not inconsistent with the Green Party of Florida meeting of the GPUS meeting process manual, these bylaws, and any special rules of order that the Green Party may adopt.
To me, that doesn't say that the Green Party thing is what we start with or has dominance. It says Robert's rules shall be used for circumstances which seem kind of vague to me.
No, it says Robert's rules shall be used in circumstances in which they don't disagree with the meeting process manual. If they disagree with the meeting process manual, we won't use Robert's rules. Like, it says in black and white. In all cases in which they are not inconsistent with the meeting process manual.
Well, but that sounds like you're saying, well, we use Robert's rules, we're not, it doesn't say we use consensus and then we resort to Robert's rules. It says we use Robert's rules.
I disagree. It says that explicitly.
It doesn't make
Just a matter of wording, I mean.
I mean, the reason I use this language is because I went through and scraped dozens of sets of bylaws that adopt rules of order. And honestly, even without the part I added, there's no question that any lawyer or anyone who's going to sue us over these matters would agree that because this line comes first, meaning the process manual, it supersedes, because when you get to the sentence, this sentence is already part of the bylaws. And therefore, it supersedes this sentence. But nonetheless, I added in the process manual to make it very clear that the Robert's Rules of Order are superseded by the meeting process manual, it's superseded by these bylaws, it's superseded by any special rule of order that the council may adopt.
Well, I'll accept it if you say that it's so. That's what convinces me, but I don't want to make an issue out of it.
Is there anyone else who disagrees with my reading of the language? Joel.
I think we need a third party to check us on that on the wording. I would suggest we get consultation with an attorney to see if that's correct. And then have to be, we see if this was what Steve Sean suggested to be.
All right, I don't know that we have the resources to hire an attorney to look at this. I mean, if we had those resources, I would have hired a professional parliamentarian the day that I signed on to be part of this party. But we don't have that work for us. Steve, I believe, is now satisfied, having had a chance to actually read it, okay. Ed?
Friendly amendment.
I don't think we actually called for purchasing, or do we already have a copy? Because I'd like to add a friendly amendment that we purchased. And is there a 2012 version?
No.
Okay, 2011 was $11. Can we just add that as a friendly amendment that we purchased in the hard copy?
I'm going to reject. I'll get to you. I'm going to reject your friendly amendment because I don't believe that belongs in the bylaws. That's a decision that the council can make on how they choose to spend their money.
Yeah, I was just gonna say along those lines. Some stuff is just pure administrative detail. It really has no business.
All right, the floor is open. Do we have any objections to adopting first and primarily the Green Party U.S. Meeting Process Manual, and then below that and below every other rule we've ever written or thought of as a catch-all for those unforeseen circumstances, Robert's Rules of Order, current edition? This is a test for consensus. Do we have any objections? Hearing no objections, I consider this passed. Once again, because of the way some of these things interact with each other, I'm going to suggest that anything we pass here is going to go into effect as a slate. None of them are going to precede each other when they begin, because there's a rule in here about how we change the bylaws. And if we pass that one first and then pass another one after it, then we can't actually do it. You know. So, yeah.
Good point. Just to clarify for myself, earlier when you talked about being able to make sure that there's a consistency between the bylaws, the Constitution, and the laws, and so forth like that, was that to make adjustments to wherever is necessary, including to the Constitution itself?
Do you want to answer that one, Jeff?
No.
I believe that was my understanding when we passed it. That yes, we would.
Because the Constitution, just historically, relevant information. That Constitution was adopted when it was required by the state, and it was kind of pushed through without a lot of care, and so it superseded our bylaws that we have had working on and evolving over time. So actually, the Constitution, supersedes us, is not necessarily a well
Any changes to the Constitution or the bylaws, I can tell you as the co-chair who is most concerned with bylaws, they'll actually be presented to the CC. Because there's a fait accompli saying, here's what we did, and if you guys want to have a vote to overturn it at 3/4, then we can do that, but we're not going to be trying to keep anybody in the dark. And any major changes we make will go to the CC. It's just that, I think part of it was that with this rule now, the board can make changes, it goes to the CC, and the CC can overturn with a 3/4 vote, as opposed to requiring a 3/4 vote with quorum and everyone voting in time to uphold the changes. Does that make sense? We're just swapping that emphasis. All right?
So I just wanted to make sure the Constitution was included in that, not
Yes.
just the bylaws.
Yes. Next we have organizing committees. I'm going to read this one to you guys line for line, because I know that some people are interested in changing some particulars of this particular amendment. Organizing committees. There may be groups of active Greens in those Florida counties which do not have recognized affiliates, but do not have the means or the numbers to become full-fledged affiliates on either a county or local basis. Yet they are committed to building the Green Party of Florida. In such cases, granting them the status of organizing committee would give them credibility in seeking to identify themselves as part of the party, to represent the party, and to build it.
I'm sorry, can you give me that number, where you are, please?
This is going into section C of the bylaws. I'll get you the article number in just a little bit.
Thank you.
An organized committee, here we have to refer to as an OC, may be officially recognized by having at least 2 members who are registered as Greens with the state of Florida in the county in which they reside, and carry out some level of Green Party activity on at least a monthly basis. The process for becoming an OC is as follows. Submit an application signed by all prospective members to the appropriate GPFL secretary or either of the co-chairs. Promise to adhere to the 10 key values and affirm its commitment to abide by and respect all local, state, and federal laws and regulations regarding political parties, organizations, and elections. The OC shall report to the person or persons designated by the GPFL to assist them in party building. Have the right to attend monthly council calls. Have the right for its members to identify themselves as working on behalf of the GPFL. Number 4, status as an organizing committee shall not carry with it any voting rights on the GPFL Coordinating Council. Number 5, the OC shall cease to exist as a GPFL recognized entity once an official local, county, or otherwise is created for that county. It should violate the party's 10 key values or to fail to maintain communications, including responding to communications with the state party. Number 4, the OC shall be assigned to one or both party co-chairs or their designees who shall be responsible for maintaining communications and providing guidance to the best of their ability. Do we have any questions regarding this? I know there's a lot of information packed in there. Yes, Steve.
Well, this word here, the OC shall cease to exist as a GPFL recognized entity because it changes its identity. I mean, it's still GPFL recognized. But
At that point, it's no longer an OC.
Right.
If another party comes up, it's no longer an OC, it's superseded.
Sure.
It's no longer recognized if it violates our values or if it fails to maintain communications.
It's just curious that the language, it ceased to exist as a GPFL recognized entity. No, it continues to exist as a GPFL. It just changes.
Unless?
No, well, it continues, but it just changed its identity.
It does not continue as a GPFL recognized entity. The Shane County Organized Committee becomes the Shane County Green Party. The Shane County Organized Committee is no longer recognized as an entity. The Shane County Green Party is now.
Is it recognized as an OC?
No, it won't be an OC anymore. It'll be a party.
Well, yes.
It'll be a county party.
But
It goes one
what
way or
my
the other.
point is, was it not?
It disappears or it becomes a local.
But as an OC, it was recognized as a GPFL entity.
So you want to be a recognized county?
Right, but what I'm saying is that as an OC, it was, but the OC and the county party are not the same entity.
No, I know.
So the OC doesn't exist anymore.
I know that it's a party.
It was,
It's a county party.
I'm clearly no words, but it was a recognized body before. It was just called an OC.
All right, I know Susan was saying one up first. You guys know? All right, Kathy, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I think it should stay as it is, because what if, for example, a different, membership of that is now constituted as the new local. I'd say just, I think it's simpler to leave it as it is.
Yeah, there's nothing that precludes an organizing committee from saying, hey, we got 5 active members now in our forms, and here's our bylaws that they're supposed to, and say all the requirements. So we would like to be recognized as a Green Party local. What Steve is sort of perhaps implying, or which could come up, is you have an organizing committee consisting of 2 people, and then you have 5 people on the other end of the county do their requirements and become a county local. Now, that county is covered. You don't particularly want to have a county local or a GPFL 5-vote local, and these separate bodies, which, you can say, well, they have certain responsibilities to the party if they fulfill them and so on, but it's a two-way street. And the fact is that the party has certain responsibilities to the organizing committee to do support of whatever kind and communication.
I'd like to point out that these bylaws earlier up only allow the formation of an organized committee if you're in a county that doesn't have a county party. And I think that's important. The example I'll use is where I'm from. I'm from Detroit. Wayne County, where Detroit is, has a Wayne County Green Party, and Detroit has a City of Detroit Green Party. If we were starting from scratch and I were in Detroit and I form an OC, and then later on someone comes and forms a Green Party of Wayne County, my OC ceases to exist. If I don't like that, I can get 5 people together and actually become a local within the county, and then we exist again. But the whole idea with an OC is like, you should be interfacing with the county party unless you have another reason to do so. We're not going to support your county party and then just 2 randos running around trying to create something outside that county party that exists just because you have some beef with the county party. Some beef with the county party, then start your own local. You need to find 5 people. They're nothing's perfect, but that's all right. So some people they're not here. I know there's one person who wanted to add an amendment to this bylaw. I'll actually present it for them. John Davis stated that he would prefer to remove item number 4. Status in the OC shall not carry with it voting rights on the GPFL Coordinating Council. He submitted that as a friendly amendment in several occasions, and I do believe that the Bylaws Committee has rejected twice that suggestion. But I want to put that here on the floor in the Henry.
The reason being is at one time there had been an active Sarasota local, and we still had somebody here that was very active in the party who since passed away. Julia. What's Julia's last name? Julia Ayers. And Julia has been one of the founders of the state region. And then there was me up in Lake County where we had a local since 2002, and it had basically dissolved. But basically they were still letting us vote. They were allowing Julia and I to vote on CC calls, even though we didn't have locals anymore, because we were grandfathered in, so to speak, by virtue of the fact that we had both had active locals at one time that were very active. So that sort of died, that disappeared, because it was sort of an unspoken thing that we decided we were going to do, or the council decided they do. So in lieu of that last one you just read, that would not be possible ever again.
I have answers for that, so I'm gonna, I think he wants to respond directly to the question, and then you, Rose, or are you responding directly to that also?
I mean, I was responding.
All right, go ahead, Rose. You're up.
Yeah. I consider it an unfriendly amendment. The issue is one of practicality as far as with organizing committees. I mean, frankly, they're going to come and they're going to go. They're small, they're not stable entities. We need, if they are given votes, then you have all sorts of politicking going on. It means the state party has to be monitoring them, reporting on them to see are they meeting their requirements, and how do you figure quorum when you've got these groups that are coming and going and their status is unclear. We've had enough problems with our newer locals already, like for instance, Indian River, St. Lucie for a while, some of the others flitting in and out of existence, and us not knowing what it takes to even have a quorum, and there's no reason to add that level of complication for what we're using. Basically, want to do with this is confer an honorary title to give somebody a semi-official status as they go around their county trying to recruit more Greens. That's all I wanted to do.
Yes. Something had changed along the way, Henry, but as I recall, we used to have a certain number of spots designated for at-large. So those at-large votes. So you may not have a local, but you're a senior statesman of the party, just as Julia Ayers was a senior stateswoman of the party. It was not a limitless number of these spots.
There were like two of us, that was it.
Yeah, I don't remember what the limit is. Okay, it was two? Okay, so that to me makes much more sense than this amendment. Because it's like, this is just a free-for-all. Whereas if you have people who have been respected members, I recall at one time, Bonnie from your local, she didn't have a vote because the Palm Beach local had kind of fallen to the wayside, and I put out, make her an at-large member, and I think it did pass. So I think that is a much better solution, and you have a limited number of spots. It just can't be endless at-large votes, but that the people who've done the work, like Henry, build this party over the years, if they can't get a local together, I think they're entitled, and in that case it's one vote. It's an at-large vote equals one vote. I prefer that. This I just think is going to be a hot mess.
I'm going to take a stack position, and I've got you, Suzanne. I'm going to talk first. I'm on the stack, and then you're next, okay? Yes, we have a standing rule that was probably created just for you guys, that, and I forgot to add it to the election, that we can have up to not up to two, we can have a number of at-large council members whose one vote each does not exceed 10% of the total number of councilors. So we have 26 officially right now, it's probably less, to be deactivated, but we're looking at two votes. So if you want to nominate yourself or someone else to be an at-large member, we will find time for that. All right, Suzanne.
As written, I feel this addition to the bylaws can be a very useful recruiting tool. Does it matter whether two people come and go in your recruiting effort? What matters is that you have recruited two people. Somewhere along the line, those two people will bring in a third who will become a nucleus of another organization. It's a way to spread the word that there is a party in your county who stands for you. Go down and register, bring your family to register, and if you never hear from them again at a meeting, they've registered.
I don't hear a lot of opposition, so I'm going to test for consensus. This is a test for consensus to adopt the bylaw as written with no changes. Do we have any objections?
Just a question.
Yes.
Is there outside chance that something like this could be created without creating bylaws into it?
Let's take a look at the rules and see what it says. Let's see here. We officially recognize the process, report to the person designated to them, no voting rights.
Of course, the committee members.
All right, so there is nothing in here that requires that this be in the bylaws to be a thing. But I personally would like to see this in the bylaws to become common practice. There are an infinite number of things that the council is allowed to do that we didn't explicitly write into the bylaws. I think that if we write this into the bylaws, then, it's more likely that the council will do this thing. It's more likely that someone who is thinking about becoming an OC, the Georgia Green Party voter, comes across our bylaws and reads them, will say, oh, I can do that thing. It's more likely that, when Palm Beach County was first forming, we didn't have what we needed. And Victor and Sylvie came and helped us out many times. And we would have been hitting the ground running faster and harder if Victor and Sylvie could say, well, hey, there's an OC position, whatever, rather than saying, well, hang out here, I'll go talk to the council about creating this new committee that is the two of you, and blah, 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 blah. I think it prevents us from having that discussion every single time two people get together and want to try to form a party in their county. I know that Jeff wanted to talk also, and then Gail.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons to include it in the bylaws. One, it does grant an official status, which means an organizing committee, merits listing on the website. And secondly, and this is more important, it specifies mutual responsibilities to the party and from the party. Otherwise, if that's not nailed down, this stuff can get very sloppy.
Right, one's right anywhere. Gail and Steve.
Yeah, just real quickly, I support it as it's written, and just being that Volusia County is a new local, I mean, we got together kind of summer of 2016, and we looked at the GP, on the website, at the bylaws, and man, it was hard. We get a group of people together, and we're looking at these bylaws, but, the election was coming up. And we said, you know what, heck with it, let's just campaign for Joe Stein and then figure it out after that. And then we got together, we had some more meetings, finally came up with enough people. But this number 4, assuming, I think it's a lot to assume that a brand new OC is necessarily even going to want to vote on our. I remember the first conference call Joel and I were on. We were brand new at this. We'd never been on a conference call before, and you guys were voting on a very, very contentious issue. And we were both kind of, because we were sitting in the same room on the conference call looking at each other going, oh, holy crap, let's just abstain from everything. We have no idea what is going on. And I think that by letting an OC start out by listening in on the call, that way I could go to my meeting and say, hey guys, the state's doing this, they have this committee, that committee, this other thing I haven't figured out yet, but does somebody else want to maybe make a phone call or email somebody? I think that this makes us stronger in setting up, because it's a huge responsibility once you get thrown on that CC board and you got all those emails coming at you and you got to vote on something. So I just think that I like the way it is.
Just want to say to Gail and Joel, it's a real credit to you to persevere through your first initiation with such a contentious call. But I wanted to offer a friendly amendment at the end of the first part of 5 before the colon, as determined by the board. Because there doesn't seem to be any determination method prescribed.
All right. That seems like a good idea. We have language, actually, once again, coming back to you. Disassociating locals and county parties for non-participation is the purview of the secretary, specifically in our bylaws. So I'm going to, the AMM is the committee's presenting this. I'm going to let Jeff decide if it's a friendly amendment or not, and I'm going to put forth the soft rule that we'll just simply copy similar language saying that it's the duty of the secretary to make these decisions if he accepts the friendly amendment or if it gets forced on him.
I think you could say, somebody, the secretary or the board's designee. Because you don't want to just dump the load on the secretary, but in fact, this providing guidance for organizing the committee could be a substantial job. And Steve, you're trying to stare.
Thank you. I just, the A and C are fairly cut and dried, but B seems quite subjective, and I don't think it should be left to the secretary to decide if this OC has violated the 10 key values.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to your amendment. Rather than adding language after the colon, I would like letter B to say, should it be deemed by the state CT to have violated the party's 10 key values? That way it goes to council, and therefore there's the affirmative action to decide, and that should be how it goes. And this is a very, as you said, it's kind of nebulous, and so it should be a big decision whether or not someone has violated this. So will you accept that friendly amendment?
I can accept it, but I must say my instinct is we're a small party, so we should be at least reluctant to add levels of administration, because we've done things before where we didn't have the administrative backup to make them work. But I can.
Steve.
It's not my place to accept the amendment, but I think it's a good one, referring to the CC, which after all has to approve new entities coming on board. So,
Do you actively object to us adding this language to the amendment?
The CC might not like it if they start having these kind of cases on a regular basis. For whatever reasons, you gotta figure, and then the OC wants to fight it. Now you got a case. That people like Joel feel crazy. I want to keep the administration as light as possible. In this case, I think that's an overriding interest. Because no money comes with it, no votes come with it, no members come with it. It's a way of bringing people in. It's a gift from the party to the organizing committee. And otherwise, we can have headaches.
Steve.
well, I guess we might be arguing a moot point, because if it's thought that some come do?
They're both set. I'm going to actually now, I've been going back and forth. I'm with you guys. Leave it as it is because the CC is already the final decision-making body, period. So, you know, I don't know if we need to add that language in to confuse it when the best language we can come up with maybe is to say the CC is the final decision-making body.
And individuals are empowered by the bylaws, I believe, to introduce motions to the CC. So if the OC wants to make an issue of it, it's not like they don't have redress.
All right, so test for consensus. Do we have any objections to adopting the OC clause as written with no amendments? Hearing no objections, I consider this proposal to have passed. All right. Protect and strengthen our bylaws. This is an amendment. The way this language works is anything in regular font is our bylaws as they currently stand. Anything in bold is being added to our bylaws. Anything with a strike through was in our bylaws and is being removed. To give you an idea of how it works right now, our bylaws, and I'm going to offer myself a friendly amendment a little bit. Our bylaws can be changed at any time by the CC, by consensus, or a 3/4 vote. I was saying at any meeting, but it doesn't need to be any meeting. You can do it by email.
You need a quorum though to do it.
You need a quorum to do it, but if enough people vote in the email chain, we have ways of getting quorum in email, yes. But just, you know, somebody gets hair up their butt, people get excited for a weekend, Donald Trump says something crazy, and we decide, you know, 9/11 happens, we decide to change our bylaws on a whim and rewrite everything. Or, you know, as I said, the Democratic Party gets mad at us, they register a bunch of Greens in different counties that we don't currently have membership, get together, declare they have quorum, and change our bylaws or dissolve the body or unwrite our Constitution or whatever. So, right now, requirement to change bylaws is a quorum and consensus or a 3/4 or 2/3 vote. 3/4 vote. 3/4 vote. Here's what we have written. Article 3B3C. Approve or disapprove proposed and recently approved changes to the bylaws. Bylaw amendments presented to the general membership by any member at the annual meeting shall be subject to the consensus process. In the event that consensus is not obtained, then such amendment shall be adopted by a 2/3 vote of the state CC as described in an earlier article. All such bylaw changes shall be settled by the end of the annual meeting or dismissed without prejudice. Each bylaw amendment approved by the state CC since the previous year's annual meeting shall be reaffirmed or rescinded by the consensus process at the annual meeting. In the event that consensus is not obtained, the amendment shall be rescinded by a 2/3 vote of the state CC as described in Article VC4. What that means is between any elections, any bylaws, amendments that we change shall only be in effect until the next year's annual meeting. At that meeting, they will be put to the general membership, and the general membership may choose to rescind them by a 2/3 vote. Of course, general membership can already rescind any changes we made, but we don't necessarily have a process of at the AMM telling you all what all the bylaw changes we made over the previous year are. So this way, any kind of criticism that goes on during the year at the state is not considered to be permanent on the books until the group meets at the membership. So if we decide as a council that the party doesn't exist anymore, well, we can still have an AMM and decide whether that's a thing.
If you don't exist, you won't have any.
Well, yes, but no. That's a right. Right. It's a bunch of Democrats get together and decide we don't exist anymore. A bunch of Greens have their AMM and say we rescind that bylaw. We do exist. And because these will be on, I know it sounds crazy, but this will be on file with the state, and those are the rules. Right. These bylaws may be altered, repealed, or amended by a 2/3 vote of the state CC voting on the issue at the annual meeting as described in Article 3B3C. The bylaws may be amended by the state CC between annual state meetings under the following circumstances. So what this is going to do is make it harder for us to change the bylaws in the first place between meetings, rather than having someone just gets an idea off the top of their head in the middle of a meeting and proposes to change the bylaws may be put forth by the state CC, the bylaw committee, county parties, locals, or individual members. The delegates of the state CC have a positive and affirmative obligation to provide appropriate notice as provided by these bylaws to the county party or local members of a proposed change or amendment to the bylaws. Delegates shall then obtain clear direction from their county or local membership, and they shall vote according to such direction. Consensus or election on changes to the bylaws. Changes to the bylaws may be made through consensus or failing that by a 2/3 vote of the state CC delegates voting on the issue. These next points are all added language. Stuff I just read you was the original language. All consensus seeking and or voting for bylaw amendments must be conducted at a regularly scheduled state CC meeting or call with quorum. We don't change bylaws over email. It has to be done at a regularly scheduled meeting, not a random meeting, not an emergency meeting, not a random meeting that people call, but our regular monthly Wednesday meeting with quorum are the only circumstances under which we can change the bylaws between AMMs. Any proposal for bylaw amendments must be discussed and finalized at a scheduled monthly CC meeting with quorum that is not the meeting that it is voted on. So, to change a bylaw, you present the proposal at one meeting and wait at least to the next meeting to vote on it and make it happen. So we're talking there's going to be at least a month-long process and people have time to think about it and hear about it to ensure that we're adhering to the fact
Unless you don't have a quorum, then it could last another month.
Exactly. But also, the affirmative, I found the language on the affirmative duty to inform your local to be crazy when I could propose and vote on a bylaw amendment in one call. We're going to say that we really consulted our locals when we all decided on one call, so that's why that language changed. And any bylaw amendment proposals not passed or rejected within 90 days of finalization shall be dismissed without prejudice. If someone proposes a bylaw amendment and we can't get a quorum for 90 days or something like that, then that proposal disappears. It can be reintroduced, that's the without prejudice part, as having not been voted on, but it's not going to stay on the agenda for a year. Any discussion? Any questions? Yes.
I don't know why you gotta have that last clause. I mean, start the whole process over again. You can't get quorum for recalls or whatever.
That's kind of the point. I mean, once again, if you want to propose a amendment that remove it, we can talk about that. But my whole point to this is, once again, let's take Gail's situation. We have a meeting, and I propose a bylaw change. And next month, we either don't get quorum, or we discuss it, decide to table it, or whatever. And then 6 months down the road, Gail joins the council. And we've been discussing this for 6 months. And we finally get to a vote on it, and now Gail is brand new and blind to it. I want it to be a different process. Outside the AMM.
Right.
Outside the AMM. Yes, Kathy.
So this is making, and sorry, I wasn't on.
No, please.
Listening the whole time. But you're essentially making all decisions for bylaws on calls or meetings rather than online on text.
Correct. Bylaw changes can only be made if this passes, only be made at the AMM and or during regularly scheduled monthly calls. Not emergency meetings, nothing else. The regularly scheduled CCC meeting.
I have a concern. One is I really do prefer having things in writing, preferred, just because, and actually what I love is, and I know it's been a long dream of mine that hasn't come true, but if we have a good tech person, we might be able to do it. But the national voting page that exists currently for proposals is not only a beautiful system for having the proposal outlining the history, strong secretarial skills in place, and we do not usually have that. It's rare when we do. And so, I just prefer serious things like bylaws as being something in writing where they can be archived and reviewed.
LeBeau, I'm going to answer that. I'm sorry, we got a second hearing, and he was talking before you, and I'm going to answer the question, and we'll get to you, I promise. In writing, I hear you, but I don't think that's necessary. Any discussion has to go on over 2 separate calls. That means that we're going to have a call, so we're going to introduce a proposal, and then we're going to talk about it next time around. And perhaps I didn't put in there that it has to be written down, but are we all going to vote to pass a proposal that we started talking about a month ago and no one bothered to write down? I don't think so. I'm sorry? Understood. Steve.
I don't, if I'm understanding this correctly, it doesn't preclude us from, discussing, submitting a proposal online on the CC listserv, and just saying this will be proposed at this next call. Likewise, it doesn't preclude us from running a ranked choice vote on Lumio or any other kind of vote on Lumio.
Y'all cleared it up. I mean, basically, all I need to say is, obviously, it's got to be recorded, it's got to be written, it's got to be, hashed out until it's where you like it. And that way, when you do get on the phone, you vote on it live, face to face, ear to ear, then it gets passed. It would never get passed unless you choose to use Lumio or one of our other tools that we use to vote. I mean, it's up to the CC to decide how to vote on it. You can vote on it in a live call, like that this is proposing, or you can use one of the tools we've been using to vote with. What's Lumia? We've been using it for a year.
Yeah,
at least a year. So.
Yeah, I mean, we got to work bylaws anyway. This is in the state. Kevin, you said.
Yes, the other thing is, on here it says, any bylaw change must be conducted during a regularly scheduled monthly CC meeting or call. So it's not about, it's actually not, it does say that's where it will be, not on the video, not written, not on the version. So my problem is that on the calls, oftentimes the quality is hard to hear everything, and we're talking about something that's a bylaws amendment. I would like to have that in writing, and also that the report, again, one of this last year, we said, okay, we'll just refer back to a phone call rather than recording a phone call. And we can't even know which phone call to go back to find it. We think we've heard someone, there's no notes. So I'm really opposed to this, and I really favor having the bylaws amendments written, and that the vote is taken in such a way so that we can see what was passed and our rights.
LeBeau Stack. I don't see anywhere that it says that the rules cannot be written. And as far as they must be discussed and finalized, that means that you can't pass the bylaw without it being on the agenda. Basically, that's all I'm saying. That we have to discuss it. We can write it and discuss it anywhere else we want, but it has to be discussed on the call and then discussed on the call when we vote on it. I don't think any of this precludes us from using any process of doing it. I'm afraid that if we choose the process you say, then we're going to be locking ourselves out of being able to but why codify that process in the bylaws when we can just write a standing rule that says we use Lumio to do votes and tally and even just count the second vote on the call as a reaffirmation of what you've already voted on Lumio.
All she wants is an ad as written, just the words written. That's all she wants.
Where am I looking at?
Show me, Kathy, because I hear you.
Okay. I'm going to select that part and maybe you'll see there the my selection show up. Okay, so under C, consensus for elections on changes to the bylaws. And it says, number 1, all consensus seeking and or voting for bylaw amendments must be conducted during a regularly scheduled monthly state CC meeting or call.
As written in the agenda.
And that'll give you the characters as written in the agenda, is that there needs to be, because agendas often come out just the day before, the same day, whatever like that.
So I'm not, first of all, if we're talking about bylaws amendments, on the call, a lot of times I can't hear a lot of the words that are being said, and I'm having to kind of speculate on what's being said. I don't want something about bylaws amendments being proposed and voted for on the call. You can still have your discussion on the call, but the votes, and even if the votes are made while you're on the call, on movie or somewhere, but they should be somewhere where you can actually read the text and vote there on the text. You can have your discussion on the call.
Where do you want
How
the
about,
order?
yeah, can I make a suggestion? How about, proposals for change may be put forth by the state CC, the state bylaw committees, county parties, locals, or individual members in writing.
There you go.
And just add it right there. Add
Yeah,
it right there.
I also want to make sure that that's where her amendment is. So we're looking at portion A, that's one sentence, and the end of that sentence, I just want to add the phrase in writing.
Proposals, okay, but with what kind of timeline and what, because we, like I said, agendas come out sometimes hours before a call.
The timeline is that it has to appear on 2 agendas in a row. It has to be in writing before one meeting, and then can't be finalized until a month later. So it has to exist in writing for a month before we can vote on it.
Is there, and you're still gonna have the voting on the call rather than in the system where you can actually.
What I'm going to say is that you can't have our bylaws be changed without that being affirmed by the coordinated council on a regularly scheduled call. I don't want Dales to be able to get together and decide to have an emergency meeting and strip us of all of our power. That's the importance of the regularly scheduled call, is that we have a process that we meet as a body once a month, and everyone who's on the council knows when that is and will be there. There's no way that city proceedings can go on in our regularly scheduled call. Whereas if we just say get a quorum and someone seeks through our bylaws and finds a way to get quorum without any of the rest of us knowing it, and they don't need to be on the call that we're all on, then they can do horrible things without us knowing about it. I don't see any way of having safe bylaws that don't require us to affirm that we're changing the bylaws in an actual meeting.
Okay, I don't understand, and I don't mean this to be back and forth, so I'll say this, everybody else is staff, go ahead.
See,
Well, just to clarify, essentially what you're saying, normally when you submit a proposal, you give a discussion, clarifying questions, a discussion period, and then a voting period.
Friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment, you have this little process.
the GPFL process thing, yeah.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like you're delineating that for these, you're just saying it can be reduced and introduced on this call, and we have a month to pass it.
No, I'm saying all the other bylaws have to be followed, including the GPFL meeting process manual.
Okay.
But under no circumstances can you have one call where you introduce a bylaw no one's ever heard of, and that be the rule going forward. You need the month to pass by.
All I'm saying is a month.
That is an amendment that I'm willing to consider. Absolutely, as I'm willing to consider the in writing aspect. I mean, I did not look to this, but I guess I just kind of assumed that proposals are always in writing. At some point or another, because we got to send them to the state, so they're going to be in writing. And even if we vote on something that's not written, we're going to have to go back and agree that what was later written was what we voted on. Like if we say, let's do this thing out of the language, but let's do this thing, the secretary's going to write that down and say, this is what we voted on, right? And we all look at it and say, no, dude, that's not what we said, or yeah, that's not what we wanted.
Well, for example, these proposals here, we've had them under consideration for more than a month. We've looked at them, they've been.
We voted on this, actually. We voted and passed this, we just passed it as a standing rule to be reaffirmed right now.
But they've been floating around for a while, and so all I'm saying is I'm going to honor the process. Is a month enough? Okay, I'm just asking, is everybody okay with the month? Introduce these on this meeting, and then next meeting we're going to vote. Okay.
My thought process, first session of the month, is because we have a meeting every month, and it's just important to me that it be 2 separate meetings. Regularly scheduled, to prevent any insanity from going on. And if we decide that we actually, instead about the time component so much, like I want this amount of time to pass, I want it to be 2 separate regular meetings, so everyone can be involved. If we decide that we want that to be longer, if the body wants it to be 2 months or 3 months, I'm open to that amendment.
Yeah.
But this is my thinking.
Well, you can say minimum there or something.
Gotcha.
Right, so I have no problem with creating that threshold that you need to have at least 2 many meetings apart. What I have an objection to is that you're putting the vote on the call, and if you're not
I'm going to respond to that, but our bylaws already say we're supposed to do that. We just don't. That's written in as the duty of the secretary to keep track of proposals, keep track of passings and things like that. It's already in our bylaws.
We haven't done that all.
I agree, and we'll be working to stick to our bylaws more so going forward, but adding it here is not going to make it happen if we weren't willing to do it when it was already written there before. I got you for the stack, Aaron, but Steve, you're first.
I think you kind of said, but I wanted to say that, you know, when you're making a call and somebody's proposing a bylaw change, that is going into the record, right?
No, it's not. That's the whole point.
Well, sure it is. Isn't there somebody recording?
Don't know.
Notes from the call?
It hasn't happened.
Don't we record all RCC calls?
Audio, we do audio.
Yeah, but that's not the bylaws. That's the way we do it, but what
We do
Even if it was
We do
audio,
that.
that's the record, right?
That's what I want to talk about.
Right.
That's why as soon as I started getting involved in meetings, I was like, you guys don't have an online document you're all looking at? So I started making documents and sending the link to everyone, saying, click this link, and now all of a sudden we're looking at the same page with notes. And anything you want to be able to remember, type it in, and it's in the notes. And if Kathy hears something one way and types in, okay, this is what I heard, and someone else is looking at the notes and says, oh, you might have misunderstood, Kathy, this is actually what I said. Oh, no, we corrected it. So we're working on text in front of us at the same time. The meeting would be non-functional for me without that. I can't remember, you know, I get at the end of those conversations and I'm exhausted, you know, I just woke up on, I'm done for the day. I go back to the notes later, like, okay, I'm going to put this together and figure out what I need to do.
Both sides. Okay, then Jeff and Robin. Another thing is, basically what you're telling me is that if we pass this, the changes to bylaws will be a pain in the ass. And that's the point. Regular proposals have to go through this. Only bylaw changes have to go through this. Regular proposals that we do every day or every week don't have to go through this process. Only changing the bylaws needs to go through this. And it should be a pain in the ass, in my opinion.
All she wants
Jeff.
is something in an archivable form.
Right, and once
If
again,
it's not in there, then it's.
I'll be happy to put it in there, do the archive. I'll be happy to add that.
I'm with you.
I just think we're again lapsing into doing administration in the bylaws. And I think administration has got to be the responsibility of the board, the secretaries, and so on, because otherwise, as circumstances change, then you have to wait another year because you change your software or whatever.
Robin, and then Steve, and then Sonny.
No.
All right, Robin.
This is off topic, but just to make us aware of time, we are at 3:40, and I would like for us to honor the space here and what Gil has done. And she also suggested that we make it still speak to the candidates in room 105 at the Commodore. So it's 3:40 now.
Yeah, since we didn't get everybody checked out early, it doesn't matter housekeeping went home hours ago. That's why we got before there to get out before Larry does the job.
All right.
I wanted to propose an addendum to the friendly amendment that is written. I just want to make it say as written 1 month prior to a vote. So that there's 30 days to discuss it as written.
Peace out. Peace out.
He wants to put the amendment that the proposal must be put in writing and passed as written. And considering whether to accept that for the amendment or not, my concern is the consensus process sometimes requires that things be changed. I'm going to think about that.
30 days more out.
Okay, I'm going to think about that. Jeff had his hand up, and then.
Just briefly, the wording has to be careful, because you may end up where during that 30 days, you make changes, and then the as written has changed, and every minor revision can be another 30 days, and another 30 days. And to some extent, we've got to have a certain amount of faith in people rather than writing more and more rules, or we simply become non-functional.
So, I like that there is some things, about writing something down in there, but, I agree, because I understand Jeff's point as far as like having to wait 30 days after every revision. But, so it shouldn't have to stay as is, because we're starting off with that, and friendly amendments and things that happen in the discussion. But I would like there to be on that, the notes, the common notes, recording notes that are being taken during the call. If that's where the notes are being done, and during those notes, that while as the vote is going to be taken, they are visible on the call, during the call. The friendly amendments or any changes are actually written onto the page so it can be seen before voting on. That can happen, on time, in live time.
Yeah, real time. Yeah, it should be. If you're being asked to decide something, you ought to be able to look at it black and white.
Right, because like I say, I got to fill in, when I'm listening on the phone, I'm guessing partly what the sentences are.
So how do we put that in there for you? What would you like to see?
I'm not a good wordsmith. So.
Yes, you are. You said it 3 times.
Well,
That's written.
so I didn't see what Steve Newman wrote in there, but I would like, instead of saying as written, that's how it's introduced. I'm not going to work here for you, because I'm not really good. Let me go up and read it. Yeah, let's see.
LeBeau I still feel like a lot of these things that we're talking about can be handled as standing rules on how we actually do business. Because right now the bylaws already don't require that we do this in writing. So, like, if we don't pass it, because we're arguing about getting it done in writing, well, that person's not going to go in, nor is any of the other stuff. I feel all this other stuff can be handled. It's just administrative business that the council says, this is how we do it now. We present them in this way. I would like to hope that we can be happy with somebody presents it in writing. And it's a topic of discussion for 30 days at regular meetings. And then from that, we can just trust people to do what they're supposed to do. I don't want the perfect thing to good, because if we don't pass it now, because we can't get that little detail in there, but we still have bylaws that can be destroyed, but we're not.
But when you say we trust people are going to do what they're supposed to do, these bylaws specify what they're supposed to do. So the bylaws have to say in there something about that they are submitted in writing.
But they don't now. I'm sorry.
Proposals should be submitted in writing, actually. Right?
So I agree they should be submitted in writing. They always are. We're not the bylaws say that. That's how we do business. So I'm saying that the fact that it doesn't say that we have to do bylaws.
You're adding bylaws about bylaws, right?
I'm adjusting. I'm amending. There's already rules and changes of the bylaws here. Everything that's not in bold is already there. And it said if you want to change the bylaws, then all you have to do is get consensus or a 3/4 vote.
Point of order.
Yes.
Point of order through Robert's rules always takes precedent.
And here.
Always what?
Robert's Rules of Order takes precedence.
No. Point of order.
Point of order.
Yes.
I move the question.
All right.
Now you can argue
Right.
whether
First of all, a test for consensus. We're moving this question to a test for consensus. Is there anyone who wants to object to passing the bylaws? The bylaw amendment as initially presented. I still not even had any accurate. Got an objection.
Question.
Yes.
What if we do adopt the voting procedures like national? It's a very efficient machine. It's a very good machine in seeing what's over there. And it seems like that would be very handy for doing bylaws too. And you can still back up an affirmation on a phone call. But if you do this, does it preclude such a system?
It does not. I'm going to bring this to a vote, and that's kind of my point, is the fact that none of this precludes us from doing any of the things that are being asked for. None of this means that suddenly we're going to start adopting bylaws that aren't, or bylaw proposals that aren't written, as we don't do that now, even without any of this language. So I'm gonna call for vote.
Robert's rules, move the question means that you put to a vote whether we vote for the proposal or not.
50% threshold? I believe it's 50% threshold. All right, so we have the call to hold the vote.
Move the question takes precedence.
So those who are okay with us calling this to a vote right now? Those opposed to us calling a vote to this right now? All right. We have a motion on the floor to adopt the following as our bylaws as part of the slated package of bylaws that the amendments will be added. Those in favor of adopting this amendment to bylaws? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those opposed? 9. Those opposed? All right. The amendment passes by vote. And I do want to again reiterate to Kathy, I will absolutely am willing to stand with you and write an actual standing rule that we can pass by simple 3/4 vote or consensus to make sure that the process involves it being in writing, that it allows voting online, etc. So we can add those in if you want. I just don't think that they have to be in the bylaws.
What was the exact vote?
Sorry?
The exact vote, I know 9 yes.
9-2.
9-2, okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to try and sail through these. What, should we sail through these, or should we just call it quits here? And can we go the last 11 minutes to 4?
What?
Can we go the last 11 minutes to 4?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
The next proposal is staggered terms. This proposal calls for the 2 co-chairs to be elected for 2-year staggered terms, proposed by Kathy. Do you have any questions? Ruth?
Yeah, I think we covered it earlier, but what would that mean for you and Robin's terms, in terms of who's gonna be re-elected next year, or whatever, like, just would be good to get that.
LeBeau Stack, my understanding is that I was first appointed to fill out Victor's term, and so my election would have been actually ending now. Exactly. I'm up for election right now because we discovered that there's elections every year, otherwise I would not be. So next year, I will not be up for election, and Robin will. Jeff.
The risk of invoking the bourgeois state. The Secretary of State says that LeBeau is the chair and Robin is the vice chair. And so, in a sense, that should settle it. In other words, you're...
Next year, she becomes, according to Secretary of State chair, whoever's elected as vice.
And you have to stand for re-election.
Perfect. Agreed. All right. Do we have any? Yes.
You're saying he would have to stand for re-election
Next year, and if both of us are re-elected after that, then she would be the chair and I'd be the vice chair, having just been elected more recently than she had.
Okay, except you served as chair, she was vice chair, and it's always said when you're in your second year, that's when you are the chair. So you would be actually.
This was my second year. The first year was Victor's.
Right, but
year.
this year is starting your first year again. So you would be vice chair this year. She would be chair this year, as far as the state is concerned.
I'm fine with that, but I assume that we were just going to go by the process that we had been using that got interrupted last year when we discovered it, and just keep that same cycle going. So she filled Jennifer's seat, and I filled Victor's seat. So for a 2-year term, starting in the middle of Victor's term, or at the beginning of Victor's term, the male is the chair, and the female is the vice chair. And then next year, either when I'm reelected or someone else gets elected in my place, that person will be the junior, they'll be the vice chair, and
Okay, well, okay, so just, I mean, this is, you can do it this way, but, I mean, there is a relationship between being in your first year and your second year, even though this would be your second, even if you were a second time, so you were in your third year or your fourth year, whatever the parallel was with the state, because they require, as Jeff said, a chair and a vice chair. So it's when you're in your second year, that's when you're the chair. So you would be actually starting in your first, with this election now, you'd be starting in your first year again of the second year.
I would like to suggest that we don't need to decide that right now to fill this out, because in all matters, except for what the piece of paper or the website of the division election says, we are co-equal chairs. So we can get together with the secretaries and read the bylaws and look at the passage, decide when we send out the new information, we send the Secretary of State, who's the chair, who's the vice chair. That's not something that's been voted on, it's something we just need to figure out. So I'd rather just move past that part.
That's fine,
Good.
except that Jeff was then saying, because then you are chair, that you would be up for election next year. And I'm saying, no, because you were just ending your second year. Even though you weren't in, you were
For election today.
You're right, I did for election day.
And
Ron,
Robin
I've got it backwards.
stands back.
Okay, all right, then
Got
we're
it,
agreed.
yeah,
Because you were saying next year he'd be up.
So we will hash that detail out before next year, I promise. But do we have any objections to returning to staggered terms for co-chairs? Once again, Gail, just to be sure that I want everyone to have a choice, we're going to call the questions. Do you object to staggered co-chairs? All right, pass.
That's it, we're gone. One more.
Two more, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
No, we can't do this now. There's no way we're getting the speaker resolution done right now. So we'll do this last one, open meetings, and we'll discuss the speaker resolution online over the course of the year, and then represent it next year to be reaffirmed. Open meetings. Our current, all right. In all meetings,
Wait, stand ago. It might be proper to take the opportunity this meeting to put the old dispute resolution bylaws as moot or whatever, because otherwise we're still mandated to come up with a damn dispute resolution committee.
so here's what we'll do. We'll vote on open meetings, and then I will read the Article 10. We will vote to make Article 10 currently moot, and then we'll discuss adopting the new Article 10 over the course of the year.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. Open meetings. As things currently stand, any member of any local or county party can join into any meeting of the council and be involved in voting. I want to end that. I believe that the meeting should be open to general membership, and anyone who wants to participate can participate in the consensus process. If consensus breaks down and we go to a vote, those who are not delegates on regular conference calls, not the AMM, will not get a vote. They will get their vote at the AMM every year. That's it. That's I removed the phrase "or where necessary voting" so that they remain in the consensus process. And then I say during the annual membership, individuals may also participate in voting. During all other meetings of the coordinating council, voting is restricted to delegates. If during, et cetera, we're back to the way it was before. Do we have any discussions, any questions about this, Steve?
At the AMM, if you have, let's say, an 8-vote portion, and 8 individuals from your affiliate show up, now the delegates don't have to vote.
The vote stack. I absolutely agree, and that's totally undemocratic. We do not have time to figure out new rules for the AMM to have them here in time. We have to do that by next year. But if we didn't get that done, then that would be the case at the AMM and on the calls. And so we had issues on the calls with that. So we needed to deal with what goes on in the calls. We feel that there should be some form of general membership participation with the AMM, but we were not able to hammer out a process for that. So we said we'll leave the AMM rules unchanged, because that's already what they were. Every year you come here, that's been the case. And if 8 people show up, somebody's just going to vote. And I don't understand how that ever worked, because you're a member, you should get a vote, because not if you're here, you only got 8 votes. How do we figure that out? I don't know how we ran that before. But at least on the calls for now, we can fix it, and once again, deal with how we do with AMM when we have more time. That's why it appears this way. I want to make as few changes as possible, a sentence or two, to get this done, and then we can fight about how the AMM should vote, should be cast at that time. We have objections? Yes.
I move that we accept the bylaws as discussed and take a vote.
This will be the last one we're going to be discussing. All I'm going to do is read a final one. We're not going to, okay, well, first of all, we have any objections to this one? All right. Article 10, we created a dispute resolution committee. The council has found that dispute resolution committee non-functioning, and I think we generally agree that the old Article 10 is unworkable. It's hard to get participation. Requires members from each individual local to participate in the committee while not being allowed to serve in any other capacity in the GPFL. It's hard to get people who want to be involved in the resolution committee at this level but don't want to be delegate, don't want to be whatever. So we would like to declare the dispute resolution process adopted last year as moot while we move to discuss the new proposed dispute resolution process, which I will read, and then we will not vote on it going forward. We have objections to returning to the state that we were at before last year's AMM regarding the dispute resolution and finding the current Article 10 to be moot. It's passed.
So read that.
Article 10. As a general principle, all points of view will be heard in an appropriate debate and expressed in a respectful manner. To ensure the integrity of communications at the state level, all members must adhere to the Code of Conduct or risk facing disciplinary action. The Code of Conduct applies to any member that is serving in a state level capacity. This includes delegates, elected members of the GPFL board, and any member of any state level committee. The Green Party of Florida does not tolerate acts of violence or threats of violence, whether implied, explicit, or any form of communications between GPFL members. Any discriminatory, racist, sexual, or otherwise degrading communications or actions on the part of any individual involved with GPFL. Any communications or actions that can be considered disruptive or a hindrance to the democratic functions of any GPFL body. More quickly, please look at number 3, because that could be a point of contention when you go back and look at this before we discuss it online. Number 4, make insinuations or assumptions regarding another member or their comments. Number 5, knowingly misrepresenting the party in a public forum or lack of respect for the 10 key values. Number 6, it is important to hear the following rules of order when participating in conversations conducted during scheduled meetings. Refrain from violations of the Code of Conduct. Refrain from talking off subject. Refrain from talking out of turn. Refrain from questioning the motives of another member. B, dispute resolutions. All resolution cases must be submitted within 60 days of the violation date. Any case not submitted within 60 days will not be considered by the board or coordinating committee. If a member feels that another member has violated the Code of Conduct outside a committee moderated discussion, they may submit a resolution directly to the Board of Trustees for review, including any written or audio evidence to support the case. If a member feels another member has violated the Code of Conduct within a moderated discussion or regular meeting, they may choose to call order and cite the violation that has occurred. If the member accused of violating the Code of Conduct during a moderated discussion or regular meeting does not continue to commit more violations and on their own rejects, apologizes, and or admits fault, and all parties involved are in agreement, the issue will be considered resolved. If a member continues to violate the Code of Conduct, any member may name the violator, cite the violation that has occurred, and suggest a disciplinary action. If seconded, the facilitator of the meeting may then choose to take one or more of the following disciplinary actions. Issue a warning to the member who committed the violation. Request a retraction of statement from the member who committed the violation. Request an apology from the member who committed the violation. Submit a resolution case to the Board of Trustees for review, including any written or audio evidence to support the case. The violating member must adhere to the disciplinary actions taken by the chair of the committee, or further disciplinary actions can be taken. If a member who committed the violation continues to violate the Code of Conduct during the conversation and becomes a nuisance during a meeting, a member of that meeting may put forth a motion to suspend the violating member from the current meeting. If the motion is seconded, then the vote is put forth to the members of the current meeting. If 3/4 of the members present at the meeting are in agreement, this is unweighted, this is by members, then the member is suspended for the current meeting, and a resolution case is submitted to the Board of Trustees, including any written or audio evidence to support the case. Once the resolution committee case has been submitted to the board, it will review the evidence of the case. A 2/3 vote is required to resolve any issue by taking one or more of the following disciplinary actions. Number 1, issue a warning to the member who committed the violation. Number 2, request a retraction of the statement from the member who committed the violation. Request an apology from the member who committed the violation. Place the member on probation. Probation may last up to 6 months. The member placed on probation and another case is filed against them, further disciplinary action can be taken. Number 5, bring a trial case to the coordinating council with recommendations to the following disciplinary action. Temporary suspension of activities and communications conducted at the state level for up to 6 months. Suspension of the member from the state level communications with the right to appeal after 1 year. Removal from any office or position with the Green Party of Florida. So all the real live disciplinary actions require that you have a trial. The violating member must adhere to the disciplinary actions taken by the board or further disciplinary action may be taken. Once the trial case is brought forth to the CC, the Green Party of Florida affirms the following rights of due process to individuals that face a trial by the CC. They shall be informed of the trial case presented to the coordinating council within 48 hours, which will be in a period of at least 3 weeks to prepare their case, present their case, submit evidence, and which testimonies to the council. The individual shall receive a written report of the disciplinary action that will be taken and the reason for the action. All disciplinary actions voted on by the CC require 3/4 of the present members to be in agreement with that action. The member facing trial shall not receive a vote. Any vote must be taken by voice at the first regularly scheduled meeting with quorum of the council, and that is at least 3 weeks after the member facing trial has been informed. The member facing trial and their county local party are not included in the quorum for the trial, nor the 3/4 vote requirement for approval. The vote shall be made after a vote shall be made after a trial during the meeting on which the member facing trial has a fair opportunity to present their case in their own defense. It shall be the responsibility of the chairs to ensure that the cases and trials are held fairly and in a timely fashion. If the coordinating council does not agree to suspend a member, they may choose instead to place that member on probation. So we will be talking about this in the council. We hope that's the new one. That's the new one. It goes to the board, and then only if the board decides that they need to do something serious, then you get a trial rather than just a straight up vote. So that will be a topic of discussion going forward. I want to thank Lucid County for hosting us and for their patience in dealing with us running over time as usual. Rose, want to speak?
One last thing, and I think we could do this really quick. I would like to put a motion for Henry Lawrence to get an at-large vote from Bay County as a council member.
We have a nomination of Henry Lawrence to, is Henry gone?
Yeah.
All right, assuming Henry accepts the nomination as an at-large member of the council, do we have any objections to him being promoted to such? Hearing no objections, welcome Henry to the ACC. Welcome back. Absolutely.
Real quick, I was hoping to bring this up as a point of discussion, but we're out of time. But I did print up some shirts, and I was hoping to, at 36 get a discount. So if anybody's interested in the designs back there, please place an order with me. And I've gotten some good feedback on how to improve the design. And